What about Disney?
Wait, you said if they will ever talk to me again, then.
What did you do?
I have no clue what I did, to be completely honest with you.
Get fired?
No, they don't fire interns.
You do something pretty stupid.
You literally like have to break.
Did you break the law?
Not break the law.
50. I know there are gonna be, well, I was gonna say there are gonna be more than that, but I know of people that are not now coming, and people that are coming.
Yo,
So we will be somewhere
I do not like it super much. That was an excellent adjective.
part of it
What
is
do you
like,
call
that's like my hair department does.
The new conference.
Yeah, I got it on business consultant. Monday.
And not exactly.
It needs a minute to like grow out a little bit on the sides.
That's the goal.
Like that's when it looks best.
I do
Bad.
like I coding data science. And that's what programs doing right now. We had data scientists in there this summer
Probably good.
and.
I dressed to the nine.
To the nine?
The nines.
So I was like, yeah, no idea what the origin was, but it's just like we were dressed. Well, okay. I've never heard that. Oh, I would have expected.
You've never heard that one?
No.
Wow, all right.
I've never just talked to.
Never once.
You happy? These. One with the white pants and the. Right here. You know.
You were.
No.
Oh, maybe.
No.
I'm just sitting here. I was probably gonna grab it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like excessive. Interesting. Huh.
It blew my mind.
Oh, my God. No, I do not. I mean, I called this. I'm like,
Oh. And weird. Oh, what a problem.
where are you?
One of my wife, or she was showing me.
To pick up about this. I feel like Roger, you did, right?
My toe on my right and my toe on my left and my toe on the right.
Got everything.
Thank you. I spent so long trying to figure those out.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yours is 8 now.
That's cool.
No, I know about it.
Did you get policy calls and got? Yeah, it's. Oh my gosh. It's fine.
No, I don't. They're so tall. Anyone else?
Super key. On the website. Thank you.
That is fair. Yeah. Yeah, that's the song.
So you guys connect. Right, fast, right.
That's for you. That's.
Well, I didn't time it on Mars there. And you did, there's a typed out. I'm gonna shoot it. Hi.
Right on time.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of seniors in my life. But don't think it's many. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not this many. No. It's like.
Alrighty, everybody, we are going to go ahead and get started with the awards portion of our banquet this evening. So before we really get started with the PowerPoint, I just want to say a big shout out to all of you. Give yourself a round of applause. I think we've had a very productive SGA term this year. So just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and diligence in representing the students of Kansas State University. But we are going to kick it off with our first award of the evening, which is not that menu, the Dr. Pat J. Bosco Outstanding Partner Award. And the Dr. Pat J. Bosco Outstanding Partner Award goes to one of our advisors here within SGA. As I'm sure most, if not all of you know, every branch has advisors, all the student senate standing committees have advisors, and they do a lot of really great work within the organization to help support the work that we do. I'm going to kick it over to Kathleen and Hattie now to talk a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
So this past probably more than a year, our advisors, Andy and Laurel, have been working on this student org policy, which is very exciting and it's going to be presented tonight. And we thought that their work has been incredibly impactful and wonderful. So for that reason, we advocated for them to receive this award, and they are. So if Laurel, if you would like to come get your plaque. Andy is on his way.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Up next, we have our Cabinet Member of the Year Award. So I'll hand it over to Marta and Jeff to talk about this cabinet member.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of hard. We had a lot of new members, new to SGA, so this definitely wasn't an easy decision by all means, but we definitely picked this person because of their continued commitment to students, everything they've been doing, not only within SGA, but outside of SGA as well, and several things they did in our cabinet as well. It's created a whole new committee, which kind of gives it away a little bit, but I will go ahead and announce it. So our cabinet member of the year is Ethan Brown.
If anyone didn't know, that's from Step Up. That's a really Great man. I shouldn't skip the thing.
All right, thank you, Jeff and Marta. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our judicial member of the year once again with Patty and Kathleen.
So, so the judicial member of the year, he's not here tonight. He's busy, unfortunately. But you can still applaud him. And if you see him around, give him a big hurrah. But he's been an integral part of our boards. He always is on time. He asks great questions. He's gonna do great things when he graduates. And we're super sad that he's going to be leaving. So the judicial member of the year is Austin Cruz.
Sorry, I have to get a little screen share going there. Okay, there you go, Austin Cruz. Okie dokie, now for Senator of the Year. So the Senator of the Year we chose this year was a tough decision. Like I said earlier, all of you did extremely fantastic work this year, and Juan and I could not be more proud and impressed of the work that each and every one of you put into Student Senate this year. Unfortunately, this individual could not be with us tonight, but this is someone that has advocated extremely hard on behalf of students within their college and students within their major especially. So I do want to give a big round of applause and a big shout out to Senator Jeremy Kamen. Like I said, Jeremy could not be here tonight, and I also could not find any photographic evidence of him anywhere on the internet. No picture of Jeremy.
He's in it.
Oh, there we go. There, folks.
I'm shocked.
All right, next up, we have the mentee of the year, and Peyton is going to hit on that for us.
So this is another really difficult decision for me because I was more than proud of the work that I was able to see within all of the interns this year. But this person from the very beginning was more than willing to get involved and ask questions and really challenge me and seek out opportunities to be involved in committees with people whose positions they were interested in. And so for all of those reasons, the mentee of the year was Ibrahim Chipchi.
All right, thank you, everybody. Up next, we are going to do Committee of the Year. So again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but could not be more satisfied, impressed, pleased with the work that each and every one of our standing committees did this year. As most of you probably know, this was a new year for some of our standing committees and some added responsibilities for some of our others. We had a lot of restructuring that went on, and we created some new committees. Some fell by the wayside. Sorry, Marta.
Sorry.
But this committee is one that I was really looking forward to being able to see grow in its role this year, see what the new opportunities of being a permanent standing committee would bring to it. I have had nothing but overwhelmingly good feedback about this committee. So I am pleased to announce the Committee of the Year this year is the Tuition Enhancements Committee. Okay, up next, we're going to do the Susan M. Scott Outstanding Female Leader Award.
Yeah, so I get the great honor of introducing this award. So you'll hear a lot more in my speech later on, but this person has been an integral part of my life lately, and she is the definition of this award, and I know that she's deserved it for the last 4 years. But yeah, with all due respect, it is Marta Richenberg.
Okay, this might be one that you don't recognize. In the past, this has been called the SGA Outstanding Achievement Award, but in honor of the retirement of our esteemed Alumni Association CEO and President, Amy Button-Renz, who was an SGA alum herself and did a lot of really great things when she was here. Class of 1976, we have made the decision to rename this the Amy Button-Renz Outstanding Achievement Award. And you'll see a commendation coming onto the Senate floor later tonight that kind of just puts that into writing as well. But this Outstanding Achievement Award is going to an individual that I have had the pleasure of working with, beside, under, over, for, that sounded worse than I meant to do, I apologize. Cannon. But this is someone that I have had like truly the distinct pleasure of working with over these past few years. This is a person that's taught me a lot. They've challenged me, I've challenged them. And I think SGA is really better off than it was before this person started. So everyone, please give a big round of applause to Blake Phillips.
Is that Baylor?
Yep, that's a Baylor. Wait a minute, I forgot a slide. This is unfortunate. Last but not least, we have the Bernard Franklin Outstanding Advocate Award. This person is someone that, again, I've had the pleasure of working with over this year, who I've seen grow a lot in their position, who's done a lot of really incredible work on behalf of students here at K-State. I think that much like with Blake, SGA is better off for having had them participate in our organization. So our outstanding advocate this year is Joseph Pondillo. Sorry, I forgot your slide, Joseph.
It's okay. You want to picture me up there?
There you go. Okay, well, that concludes the awards portion of our evening. So we're going to go ahead and move into senior speeches for the night. I'm going to stay up here and kind of preside, but Kathleen, do you want to give a senior speech since you're already up here and holding a microphone? Do you not? Okay, you can go later. Who wants to go first? I will pick someone. I will pick a senior.
I think you should.
Jeff.
Not me. Nope.
Jeff.
Nope.
Really, folks? Someone's got to start. Dakota? I know. I will stand here. This is Kathleen Cowell, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm too short. So I wasn't planning to do a speech, so it'll be short and sweet. Thanks, Hattie. Thanks for the fun, folks. This has been a good 4 years. I didn't ever expect SGA to be this important in my life. I certainly didn't expect to be the head of a branch, to be doing all of these amazing things and the opportunities I've had, the relationships I've been able to kind of cultivate out of it. So kind of overall, SGA has simultaneously been the bane of my existence, but also the peak of my college career. So thank you all for being part of that. Do I get to pick someone?
Yeah, we're gonna popcorn this.
Yeah. That's it. Oh,
All right, 1 sec. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can because Marta and I have the same length speech. Hers is typed out word for word. Mine is bullet points. So I will try to go as fast as I can because as many of you know, when I started in SGA, ever since my sophomore year, I've kind of been half-heartedly joking about writing this speech. For whatever reason, my sophomore year was like, I should start writing this. And that didn't happen until last night, as you could probably guess. So I am just your average student who does their work the night before, turns it in. And so just ended up the way that it probably should have. So I just wanted to start. This organization has done so much for me and has really been the highlight of my college experience. I know that everything about college that I've enjoyed is SGA. Classes have always just been fine, but I've always really enjoyed going to committee, going to Senate. That's honestly what I've looked forward to every day in college. So saying goodbye to SGA is very difficult, but I wanted to take you all back to how I got started. And that was my senior year of high school, actually, was my first K-State SGA meeting. Many of you have heard this story, but I'll tell it in a short version for some of you as well. Nate Bothwell, how many of you know the name Nate Bothwell? Good, still the majority of you. That's the way it should be. So Nate and I were really good friends. His brother Jared and I are best friends. We lived together, and Nate was a couple grades above me. We went to high school together, and he said that I should come down to see Avengers Endgame with him. When that came out, we saw the midnight premiere and it was phenomenal. But he also said you should come check out this SGA meeting because I think you'll like it. And me being in high school student council and being like, this is lame. We just do a little bit of stuff during homecoming. I didn't quite know what to expect, but I remember specifically that we being SGA moved like $700,000 in the blink of an eye. No one batted an eye. It was not a big deal at all. And I was like, whoa, this is a really big deal. So I knew what I was going to be doing as soon as I got onto campus. I remember Marcus Kidd from that meeting, Creighton Glasscock, Andrew Booz, Hannah Heatherman. There were a lot of names and faces that I recognized. So coming in was a lot of fun. So number one, I have to give a huge shout out to Nate because I would definitely not be here without Nate Bothwell. He is such a great advocate for students, such a great friend, and such a great leader. I've had the pleasure to know him my whole life, and I really, really appreciate Nate. This speech is going to be dominated a lot by thank yous because I have a lot of people to thank. So I'm going to try to run through them. And this kind of goes in chronological order from my freshman year to senior year. Kind of tried my best to organize it a little bit, but first, I wanted to thank a big group of individuals being Haley Spellman, Nathan King, Natalie Javin, Ryan Kelly, Creighton Glasscock, Justin Watkins, Ben Snyder, and Brent Carlson. A lot of people who you've probably never heard of, but I like being able to, I know at one point or another for all of us, our name will be said for the last time in Wildcat Chamber. So if that's any of them tonight, I hope that they have a great rest of their life. That was deep. But all of those people were really welcoming to me in Student Senate. I sat by all of them right over there, kind of where Hannah's sitting, in a big group, and we all had a great time. They were all outstanding leaders and really good role models. So I really appreciate all of them. Julia and Lily for being the best intern coordinators. I know our intern class was super close. So yes, Megan. Julia and Lily were awesome. Really happy to have had them as intern coordinators. Ali Karmali, our student body vice president when I got here, Ali and I worked really close together when we probably didn't think we would because a bill became controversial and we both were the only ones in the room who were a part of who did it. And so we kind of went up to bat, and that was my first time speaking in front of Senate. Wow, that was wild. Also, big shout out to Jansen Penny, who was student body president when I got here. Jansen was the moment, or my first time ever seeing Jansen Penny was the moment I realized that the student body president is just a student. I was in Aggieville going to Buffalo Wild Wings, and on my way back, walking to my car, I see Jansen Penny, student body president, holding a White Claw in his hand, stumbling down the sidewalk. And I was like, this was 2 weeks into school, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is how our university runs. So Jansen was great though. Jansen, after I ran for speaker pro tem my freshman year and lost, Jansen sent me probably the nicest email I've ever received, and I still go back and read that sometimes. So I really appreciate Jansen for always being there for me and just being a great leader as well. Ashley, Rachel, and Alexa, I know none of them are here. How many of you did high school debate? Wow, not as many as I thought. I debated against all three of these people, and they were here for the first intern meeting, and I hated them at first because, especially Alexa, I could never be in debate. But I really became good friends with all of them, so I'm glad that high school debate was over and we got over that. And finally, Marcus, who isn't here, but Marcus is super welcoming. He always gives a lot of wisdom and is just really great. If you've never talked to Marcus, definitely talk to Marcus Kidd. Moving on to sophomore year, I have to give a huge shout out to Madison Brown. Madison, I was her vice chair for the formerly known as Privilege Fee Committee. And Madison, I owe a ton for me becoming a leader, me being involved in SGA. I always told her she was the person who influenced me the most and really helped me become the person I am today. I wouldn't have been speaker without Madison, SSF chair. So I really owe her a lot. And also Andrew Booz. I love Andrew Booz. He gets a bad rap sometimes, but he was my mentor, and it was the best mentor-mentee pairing. He was exactly what I needed. And it was just wild. I really enjoyed Andrew. Andrew and I ran for speaker against each other as mentor and mentees, and it was the best matchup I could have asked for, not because I won, but because while we were out in the lobby while everyone was debating, Andrew and I were just going over platforms, what we wanted to do better for SGA regardless of who won. So he's someone who really, really cares, and I really appreciate him for helping me out. My junior year, there's several people on this list as well. First, Michael Dowd, for being an awesome student body president to work with. Michael and I spent hours upon hours together, especially during insufficient funds. So I really appreciate getting to work with him. And he is a fellow Big Booty Mix fan. If you've never listened to Two Friends, Big Booty Mix, look it up. It's really good. Cameron Koger is probably the best person I've ever met. He is so much fun. He's an awesome student leader. He's so caring and passionate. So if you haven't gotten the chance to meet him, I'm sure he'll be back in Manhattan sometime. Definitely take the chance. Maggie Billman, I really appreciate Maggie. We had something happen, but Maggie and I spent a lot of time with Maggie my junior year, and I really appreciated getting to know her and spending a lot of time in the office together. Annalie and Matthew, the former AG, got you judicial. Annalie and Matthew were awesome. They were a ton of fun to work with on the judicial side, and I really appreciated them as well. Also, the interns with Speaker Blake group chat, you know who you are. I appreciate all of you and for helping me out during Senate while I was speaker. Brian, I have to give you a shout out. Brian, you were a pain when I was speaker, but you've done so much growing in SGA, and I really enjoyed seeing that. You still pull some shenanigans sometimes, but I have a lot of respect for you, Brian. So go you. Max Harmon. Max is awesome. He is the most analytic and critical thinker that I know. He can put a good word phrase on something, and I owe him a lot for student services fee. So I really appreciate Max. I'm going through this fast. I'm sorry. Durga Jambunathan is dope. Durga is in law school right now. She was the on-campus allocations chair last year. She just brought such a good vibe to Senate, and I really appreciate Durga. Next, senior year, AKA everyone else on the list. First of all of our advisors, I know we have some here today. Specifically, I want to shout out Amy and Jen, because you two, while I was speaker and SSF chair, I spent so much time with, and I really appreciate all of your advice, you always being there for me and having such great conversations. So you all do so much work, and you don't get enough recognition. Big round of applause. Sam and Brady, I wanted to shout you all out. Sam, it's been awesome having you on the committee. I've really enjoyed that. You're so smart, and I'm so excited to see what you do next. And Brady, you've been an awesome mentee. I've loved having you. You're so enthusiastic, and so very excited for you as well. Next, I wanted to give a shout out to Kate. Kate and I started out the year a little bit rough. We kind of went to war over a few pieces of legislation, but we ultimately ended up being really good friends throughout. So I'm really happy for that. And Tech is doing awesome, as was shown tonight. So Juan also is now here. Juan, I wanted to give you a shout out. I really enjoyed getting to know you over the past year and a half or so. So I really appreciate all you've done for my SGA journey. Big shout out to Marta as well. Marta, I don't know if you remember this. You were a sponsor on my first piece of legislation, and I thought that was a huge deal. And I didn't know your name because in Outlook, your name was Christina Richenberg. Marta. So that was literally a commendation to the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl. So Marta was a sponsor, and I thought that was the biggest deal in the world at the time. So I'm glad we've been able to grow a little closer than just being email sponsoring on legislation. Parker isn't here, but Parker has been awesome to get to know this year. When he was elected, not gonna lie, I wasn't super thrilled, but Parker has done a phenomenal job this year. Yes, Jeff, Parker and Jeff have been awesome. Parker and I have talked a lot about Washington, D.C. and have really grown close, so I really appreciate Parker. Bryce and Peyton, Tonganoxie. Tonganoxie used to be a lot bigger of a presence in Student Senate, but I'm glad that we were able to carry on the tradition. So thankful for you all. RJ, you're dope. You helped me remember that not everything is about SGA. I also credit you for why I own jeans today, because I was very anti-jean until RJ convinced me to get jeans. Evan, I wanted to give a shout out to you. You've done such a good job as speaker this year. I know that, like you mentioned, we've argued on a few things, but you've done a really good job. And so I wanted to make sure to give you a shout out. Glad I was able to pass the gavel down to you. So Jacob Long, Jacob, you're a magician. SAC, or the Travel Allocations Committee, used to be kind of a boring committee, but Jacob has turned it into an absolute circus every week. And by that, I mean a really good thing. It's entertaining. From theme nights to just getting people involved. There's been so many people who maybe they left Student Senate, but they're like, how can I stay in Jacob's committee? So Jacob has done such a great job. Jacob's such a good friend. We have so many late night, 3-hour-long SGA conversations and get so much work done. So Jacob, I really appreciate getting to know you and the friendship that we have. Couple more. Hannah Heatherman is awesome. Hannah and I were just talking about this right before, but my second week of classes, I ended up switching majors. I was in engineering, fun fact, for 2 weeks, and then I realized that I hated it. So I had to go switch my major, and someone directed me to the dean's office where Hannah was working. Well, Hannah had no idea who I was, but because I was at Senate before, I knew exactly who Hannah was. And I walk into the room and see her, and I go, oh my gosh, you're Hannah Heatherman. And she had no clue who I was, and I felt like an idiot. Little did I know that Hannah and I would become really good friends. We work together now. Hannah's been such a big mentor. Madison, I give credit for having the most influence over me, but Hannah has by far been my biggest mentor in SGA. She's been so awesome. I really enjoyed getting to know Hannah. You're just the best. And I am so glad that we've been able to be friends, even though it may not have seemed like it when we first met. So, and finally, Nick Saya. Nick, sharing an office with you was the best experience in SGA for me. I'm so sorry that I absolutely ruined your sense of smell with an air wick and the wax melter. I'm sure that you wanted to kill me, along with all of my fun gadgets and stuff that you had to put up with. But I appreciate you so much, from our candy runs on November 1st to get the discounted Halloween candy, which we bought the perfect amount of because we ran out on our last day in office. Nick, it's just been such a great pleasure to know you. You're the smartest person I know. And if you all didn't know, I'm hoping to go to Washington, D.C. to work on Capitol Hill. And Nick, I truly mean it. If I ever do end up running for Congress, I want you to be my chief of staff. So Nick is amazing. Marty, you can be on the team too. But so those are all the thank yous I have. I promise this was not an exhaustive list. I could go through every single one of you and thank you, but I'm already at 1,240 words on this thing, and Marta still has to go too. So to close, just a couple things as I leave that I think really is in the best interest of SGA. Number one, I think that in the future, membership is our biggest thing that we need to work on. Making sure that people are involved in this organization and know what we do is the most important thing, having voter turnout so that we can have the best representation possible. And number two, and I know that I am the absolute antithesis of what I'm about to say, we need to write more resolutions about things instead of amending governing documents and funding. I love funding. I love amending governing documents. I do plenty of that. But the real meaningful work comes from advocacy. And that's our number one goal in student government, is to advocate for students. And so find a way, get creative, write some meaningful commendations, go find an issue on campus that you're passionate about. Our scholarship stuff that we've been doing lately has been really awesome. And so find something you're passionate about and make it happen, because you can make literally anything happen in your seats out there. So overall, thank you, SGA, for being my best college experience. My major's always been fine, but SGA has always been what I look forward to. So I really appreciate that. And I hope that I was able to make some students' lives a little bit better while I was here. Go Cats, go SGA. Yeah.
Blake, who would you like to round robin?
Man.
Hey, hello, good evening. I'm a little nervous because I didn't really think I'll be here tonight or graduate when I'm supposed to graduate, but I made it. So far we've heard from Kathleen and Blake. That's pretty great, but this is starting off on the wrong side of things right now. I wanted to start by saying, like, this has been a great school year for me, and SGA has been a big part of my time at K-State. I've dedicated a lot of time to this, and it's been awesome. Starting with let's probably go back to 2019 when I first got to K-State. I did not want to do anything leadership because that's all I did in high school. I ran away from it like a plague until Mike Finnegan stopped me in class and said, hey, so there's this cool opportunity that you could do. There's all these awesome things that they do. And he connected me to Jansen Penny. And I went to my first intern meeting, and all I saw was like, okay, these are just pretty much rich kids that are just in this room. I do not want to be here. And that was my first and last time at that intern program. And fast forward to Tell Whitmer, I followed everything that kept going on. And then Michael Dowd, and I got on cabinet, which has been a really big deal in my life recently. And throughout all these years, I feel like it's been great just being on cabinet, from Michael to Parker, and all of the things we've achieved is really awesome. And I hope it keeps going on, and I hope to keep seeing that happen. So just like Blake, I do not have 40 words to talk about tonight. So I will go on to the next part of what I have to say. First, I would like to give a lot of thanks to a lot of people, especially one Mr. Vedant Dapika Kukani. He has graduated and is in Madison, Wisconsin, but he was a huge influence in my life, and he basically helped me become the person I am today, and that is pretty awesome. To a few of my mentors, which one of them is in the room, Miata Chavez, Dr. Stoney, Dr. Lane, my good old friend, Jacob Schmitz. They helped me become great people in life. To Paloma Roman, Natalia Rodriguez, she used to be a senator for people that do not know her. Jordan Aker, Ibrahim Chichi, who I got to know about less than a year now. He's been a great guy, and he's helped me see some of the things that some of my blind side, and it's been a really big influence. To Sarah Haggard, she's not here today, but Sarah has been someone that supported me since I took position in cabinet. To John Hatfield, he's really helped me out throughout this year, and it's been a great deal in my life. To Mike Finnegan, where all of this started, he was the guy that pushed me to be here. Tamara Bauer, Alicia Williams, they pushed me out to become a leader when I just wanted to run away from it. And to the people in this room, I probably will start with Jeff Ebeck for giving me a chance on his cabinet. Martha Reichenberg for always talking out my ear, but yet motivating me every day. I see Jess Binkley, you did a great job with like some of your inputs on the things I worked on. Ross Latter being awesome. Joseph Pandillo for always cracking me up every time I step into the room. Darby for being my Thursday partner. That's a great one. Peyton Lane for always, like whenever I kind of present something, Peyton would call me aside and say, hey, so this is my idea for this thing. How do you think we could make it work? And I really wanted to say thank you, Kate Thomas, for pushing me to go for a cabinet position. So thank you. And for the next year, I am so excited to continue my journey at K-State. And I'm really excited for a master's program at a place that I really love. This is family, and it's always hard to say goodbye to family, but I think that's it. So thank you.
Manny, who do you want to round robin?
John?
No.
Yes.
Jordan, if you don't want to give a speech, you can round robin someone else.
Alrighty, last time I was up here was presenting JCOC. So I apologize to everybody that had to sit through that, not only once, but twice. That was the bane of my existence. So happy I did that. So like Kathleen, I was not planning on giving a speech. I've been in SGA for 2 years now, so this is still new. Like last year we did it at Pizza and Fun and not at this, so kind of like Manny, originally getting to K-State, I did not want to get involved. I was heavily involved in high school, always doing something, so kind of wanted to take a break. And then I got an email about joining judicial branch, and I thought that sounded really fun. Always wanted to go to law school, so I thought that would be a fun way to get started. And I'm really glad that I've done that. So this year I was on DEI. Big fan. I had no clue what it was until Kathleen and Joseph came in eating Qdoba and asked her, like, we need someone from judicial to do this. So do you want to do it? And I was like, sure, why not? Turns out it's actually pretty fun. You get to help a lot of really cool people and hear a lot about different people on K-State that you never would have experienced. I definitely have some people I want to thank. Kathleen and Hattie for sure. You guys have been a lot of big supporters. Bentley. Oh my God, so many things I could say about you. Great friend. I couldn't tell you what our snap streak is because he loses it every 3 weeks. But it's pretty high if you don't count the days he forgets. And Marta, sweet, lovely Marta, you are the reason I passed American presidency. Guys, I was so lost. I'm a psych major, not a political science major. Do not take a 600 level course if you have no experience in that major. And then Evan and Juan for taking over your office for like a whole semester. Those Tuesdays and Thursdays were what I looked forward to coming to class last semester. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to law school. So in 3 years, if you guys want to give me a bunch of money, call me.
Darby, who do you want to pick next?
So I forgot to say Manny. He bought me a lot of 50-cent doubles.
All right, well, I was part of the consequences last year at my house of how long speeches went. We were predicting about an hour, but it went for about 4. So I'm going to keep this pretty quick.
Yeah.
So first off, I just want to say I am thankful for the position I had this year. It was such an honor serving each of you in my capacity and just serving Kansas State and all. So I'm going to kick it off with all the people in this room. First off, I want to say thank you to Amy Lee. She's the first person I think of because she's the first person I see typically every day. I try to get in the office by 7:30 a.m. and it's typically a competition between her and I of who's going to get there first. She's on quite a bit of a hot streak right now. But also just competition between me and her grandson, Easton. Next, I want to say thank you so much to our office mates. It's been a blast, especially since we went to DC this last week. It was just so much fun getting to know each of you a lot deeper and getting to see each of you in that capacity. I want to say thank you to our advisors, specifically Dr. Lane. He has been such an incredible human this past year, and he's the one that actually convinced me to go into student affairs next year. So I will be around campus next year and hopefully getting my PhD sometime later down the future in higher education administration. Also, she's not on here, but I want to give her a quick shout out, Murda. Shout out to those 8 a.m. Friday meetings for community visits. Always love to call you out on the Zoom. Next, I want to say, Ethan, I have got to watch you grow over the last 3 years and you have done such an incredible job. I was so excited to see you become student ambassador, helping you through that process. I was so proud of what you become and what you will do for the next year. Megan is the next person in the room. I have it split up between people in the room and outside the room, if you haven't noticed. Megan, you've just become such an incredible friend of mine through Blue Key, but also student government. I met you in the interim program and I was very scared of you. But I just want to say that you have been an incredible friend of mine and I'm very appreciative of you. Next, I have Caleb on the list. So I got to meet Caleb as a freshman. So him and I shared a mentor in Tel. And I remember the first time I met him was actually at Early Edition. So we shared that restaurant, but getting to watch you grow into the role you have now. And it was very hard for me to support any campaign, but I just want you to know how proud I am of what you become and what you will be able to do in the next year. And Jess, I am so proud of what you did over the last year on our cabinet and just getting to see you when I think I met you in SAB, right when you got into SAB, but just getting to transition with you. I am so excited about your future and I know you will accomplish great things in the role. And shout out to VPs because we love VPs. And Logan. So I got Logan as my mentee my sophomore year. And I remember the first time I had my first mentee meeting with him, it was at Lucha with Tel actually. And he had no idea what he was getting himself into. And it's just been so cool, kind of a trend again of watching him grow into the best LD that K-State has probably ever seen. And hopefully going for a three-peat, not convincing anybody in the room, but just watching him be such an incredible person and kick ass both on Higher Education Day and Big 12 on the Hill, even though Baylor kind of fumbled the ball there. But basically, yeah, he has just done an incredible job and goes above and beyond in every role he's ever been in. KJR, he has became a really good friend over the last year of mine. I met him kind of through campaign season. He was a good friend of Parker's beforehand. And I never expected to grow close to him or Parker Larson through campaign season, but he has just become such a great friend of mine. I feel like I can always go to him for anything. And throwing him in local relations was kind of a, hey, why not? Let's do it. And he has done an incredible job with the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce and Town Gown. And he's just become such an incredible friend of mine. And I'm proud of everything he does. And shout out to JP Morgan in DC. He is going to kick ass in that role. So people outside this room, I will start with Sadie Polson. She's the first person that comes to mind. She creates so much comfort in this room for me when I came from a first generation student who had no idea what he was going to get himself into in SGA. And she was just that very warm, snuggly person that I could always feel like I could go to about anything. Jansen and Ollie. I remember my first intern meeting. Jansen walked up to me and was like, "You're like Ashley Ebeck's brother, right?" Ashley was a big name on campus before I was around. And I was like, "Yeah, totally." Like, hated following in her footsteps, but Jansen just made me feel like a human. And I was like, God, like the student body president's talking to me. Like, it was such an honor. And basically just want to say thank you so much for creating that comfort. And then Ollie was just like, I swear that dude would appear in the most random spots and I would see him everywhere. And just want to thank him for that. Then I have Parker Larson on my list. I wish he would have been here tonight. I've grown so close to him. We started after campaign season getting weekly coffees and just, well, first of all, seeing our passion for finance and be able to talk about the stock market every week was a lot of fun. But also just growing really close to him and the fact that he has built so much and he had no idea what SGA was first. Like, he did not join SGA until this last year on cabinet. It's because Parker and I convinced him to interview for cabinet. And he's just done such an incredible job. Dakota Cherney, he is another person on hand. So he's our PR director, if anybody doesn't know who that is. And didn't really do any posting or anything this last year, but overall, he is such a great guy because he owns his own business. So that's what keeps up a lot of his. He runs a media company up in Nebraska where he has to probably go home or around home probably about 3 times a week to shoot video and create video for a lot of companies. So that is his perfect excuse for that. And he spends a lot of money on me at the bar, so I can't complain. Next is Cameron Koger. So if many of you didn't know, I got the opportunity to manage Michael and Cameron's campaign my sophomore year, and I went through a lot through that campaign. And he was just that constant positive voice in my ear, and he was always there for me. And I still get those random calls at 8 p.m. of like, "What are you up to? What are you doing?" Like, I know he's killing it at LSU, and I can't wait to see him become a dean of students one day. Next, Marissa. I know Marissa is watching the live stream. I hope she can hear me right now. But I just want to say thank you so much for being my campaign manager, but also being one of my first friends at K-State. I remember sitting in the second to last row with Tell and Marissa always giving me crap for being Tell's mentee and all that. And then that grew into what I call one of my best friends today. She was my campaign manager, but also we ran for ambassador together. She was there for me when I lost and was there for me for a lot of other stuff. And I just want to say thank you so much, Marissa. I would not be here without a lot of stuff you did for me. Next is Michael Dowd. So Michael Dowd, I consider to be my #1 mentor. He was actually my roommate last year. Bless up the holy house. But basically, he was just the person that was always there for me, always had those intentional conversations with me, and always invested in me. He was really the first friend that took that deep investment in me of like, I know you can achieve great things, but I want to push you to achieve those great things. And I would definitely not be in the spots that I am without him today. And he always challenged me. I definitely would not be in Blue Key or anything like that without him. Sorry, I forgot one person in the room, but I'll save her for last. And then I'll hit Parker real quick. Parker and I didn't really know each other before Michael's campaign. And I was scared to kind of reach out to him. So I was the one that reached out to him to kind of have this idea of running together. And I was like, might as well shoot my shot. Not sliding into DMs or anything, shoot my shot. I know he's gorgeous, but I was trying to shoot my shot and sat him down at the first speakeasy in like September, or I don't know if it was late August. It was the first Senate meeting, whenever it was, last 2 falls ago. Oh God, I'm old. But just kind of threw the idea on him, and then we had a lot of conversations, and he is truly the person that I've grown the closest with through this experience. That's what happens when you spend about 10 to 12 hours a day with each other. But definitely, I have never been so thankful for one person in my life. And I know Parker, especially since we're living together next year, he's going to grad school, I'm going to grad school here. It's going to work out well. But I just want to say thank you so much, Parker, for all you've done for me. And I truly love you for that. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking a risk on being our chief of staff this last year. I know it was probably a lot coming into a relationship that where Parker and I were best friends, and it was very intimidating to come into. I know I always hung that over your head for about 3 weeks that was leading up to the chief of staff interviews, but I always knew you'd be the one that would stick by our side. And you've truly made dividends in my life of being that positive person for me in some of my very low points through this role. And you've just been such an incredible person in my life, and I want to thank you so much. So I will move on to the advice for the next generation of SGAers. My first piece of advice is build connections. Building connections is everything. This is hard work to do, but without amazing people being around you, it is impossible to do. Second, invest in your people. I've heard this multiple times over the last week from the distinguished young alumni that were on campus, but I'm going to steal it anyways. And I'll say that people will not remember your title or what role you had or what you did, but they will remember the way you made them feel. And I will live by that. So always be kind and intentional in the way that you interact with people, especially because this job is basically interacting with straight people. So you're just all the way, always interacting with people on a day in and day out basis. So I had this at a point and I already said it, but be intentional as hell. Like you have to have those conversations with people that most likely you don't want to have. Like Blake is a great example. You think he wants to talk to CAP about decreasing their funding? No, but you have to be intentional and show the facts of that. And my last point, you work in SGA and you have to sacrifice for it. When you accomplish something, you feel good for about the first 15 seconds after that. But in that 16 second, you need to realize what you sacrifice, and that is friends and relationships. Working hard is a great thing that all of us should do, but it's done for goals' sake. You need to realize in that 16 second, the work that you paid for is the lack of attending to those relationships. Prioritize the special people in your life. Don't get caught up in the work. Say yes to those coffees and beers. Those are the memories you want to make. Thank you.
Jeff, who do you want to popcorn?
Megan.
Megan.
Okay, so similar to Blake, mine is also in bullet points, except I did mine in the last 20 minutes, which is normally not like me. I'm the person who works ahead, but today it was kind of like a last minute thing. So here I am winging it. So most of mine are also gonna be thank yous. I know you're gonna be hearing a lot of those, but really the people here in SGA are the reason why we get so far. And so that's something that's really important to me. So thank you to Julia and Lily for being the best intern coordinators and then influencing me to be an intern coordinator my sophomore year. I'm still cracking up that some of you thought I was scary because I'm such an awkward and quirky human being. God bless Sarah Pelton, my mentor, for being a fantastic person and showing me that I can be a badass businesswoman and go after my dreams of going to law school. She is in law school, so flex that. Thanks for Nathan Tell and the rest of the head honchos that year for making me feel like little sophomore me did know what I was doing as an intern coordinator during the pandemic, no less. Thank you to Juan for making me feel like you actually cared what I was teaching during that year. To the College of Business, I'm sorry that I bug all of you every month to be at our Dean's College meeting, but your voices are so valuable, and I hope you carry on our classic opening question to our caucus time for years to come. For those of you that are in it, I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't missed all the late Thursday Senate nights, but I know that you all do such important work and I wouldn't give those memories up for anything. Similar to Darby, Jaycock was the bane of my existence, but fingers crossed you have a better experience with it than we did. Parker, Jeff, and Marta, thank you for taking a chance on me and giving a new position on cabinet when we had no idea where it would go. And also you three have become some of the most trusted people in my life, and I will be forever grateful to that. Similar to other people, I could go on and I'll kick myself later for saying something or not saying something, but I wanted to thank you all for the friendships and memories that you have given me. And if I get accepted in law school in 3 years, I will, similar to Darby, take your money as well. So thank you.
Megan, who do you want to wrap up? Marta.
Marta.
Okay, I know this is like public speaking 101, but I'm staring at this paper that I wrote. So because I look out, I'm gonna cry. So, okay. If you would have told me, sorry, I lower it. It's too high for me, I couldn't see. Okay, if you would have told me on my first day of school all the opportunities I'd be given during my time here, I would have never believed you. Came into college knowing no one, had no idea where to go once I was here. I spent most of my time in high school just kind of cruising on by, so when I came to K-State, I wanted to do something different. Being a poli-sci major, I thought student government would be fitting. I mean, it's just event planning, right? Little did I know, sitting in those chairs, that joining SGA would quite literally change my college experience and honestly, my life. When I was in my first intern meeting and I figured out just how much SGA does, and then I actually have to run a campaign, I wanted to run out that door. I had very little confidence in myself, and while others were excited to campaign, I was like, yeah, no, thank you. But for some reason, I kept coming back, and maybe it was the friendships I was developing, or it just gave me something to do. But I don't really know what it was, but I just kept coming back. I didn't know at the time, but I'd be running even more campaigns as the years went by, and eventually a presidential one. To say that I have changed since coming here would be an understatement. SGA helped me grow as a person and a leader. I genuinely don't believe that I would be who I am now without this place. I learned the importance of friendship, the importance of serving, and the importance of not losing yourself in the midst of all of it. Being chief of staff has been probably the greatest honor I've had. From the very beginning, this was a position that was my biggest SGA goal. All the amazing women that came before me, such as Sadie Polson and Maggie Billman, set the standard high, and a standard I wasn't sure I could meet. But the minute I stepped into this position, I knew this is where I was supposed to be. To be able to not only support the boys, but the entirety of SGA is the greatest gift I have ever been given. I do want to give a few shout outs. I know it's been happening a lot, but these people are important to me in my journey. So first off to Blake, we're retiring now. How weird is that? I would feel like you were one of the first real friendships I developed in the intern program, from those after fun Senate Zoom meetings to now. You've always continued to do best for students and to be a good friend. I'm so proud of all you've accomplished, and while you are the biggest SGA nerd I know, please don't be 50 and watching these back. To Kate, I'm not sure where I'd be without your constant uplifting words. Through some of my hardest days, you always reminded me how life can be. You were supportive of me through a hard time and helped me learn to love myself again, and for that, I am so grateful. To Bentley, words cannot describe how much I value our friendship. As much as you were my mentee, you taught me so much more about having fun, not taking yourself too seriously, but importantly, you taught me the value of being a mentor. Being able to mentor you throughout your SGA career has been one of the greatest honors that SGA has given me. Whether I'm around or not, I know you'll continue to do great things, no matter how messed up your bow tie is. To Peyton, while the election did not go the way we wanted it to, I'm glad you decided to take the journey with me. To be able to share my story and hear yours has been one of the most impactful parts of my SGA journey. To be able to hear from students all over campus that believed in us and our ideas really showed me that the work we do here really matters. I'm very proud of you and all we were able to do. Okay, here we go. This is gonna be a hard one. Okay, and finally, to the boys, Jeff and Parker, I will forever be grateful that you chose me to join you on this crazy journey that is the executive branch. Being chief of staff was a position I've always wanted to have. My love for the position has only grown. Being able to get to know both of you has been one of my favorite K-State memories. I'm going to miss Jeff scaring me every time I walk into the office, or Parker having to dodge him every time he decides to stretch his arms. Though my position is to support you all, no matter what was going on, you two were always there for me. I cannot thank you both enough for the strength and love you gave me. Most of all, I'm going to miss seeing both of you every day. I looked over at Jeff, that was a mistake. Even though we're very near to retirement and closing our yearbooks, our friendship is one I will never forget. As my time here comes to an end, I want to give one piece of advice. Do not wish this time away and take in every moment you have, because before you know it, you'll be up here giving your senior speech wondering where all the time went. I would give anything to do it all over again. This place and SGA has given me so much. My life will not be the same without it, but I know it's prepared me for whatever journey is next. Though I don't know what is next, I know that if I'm ever lost, I know where I can go. Before I finish, I want to leave you with a quote from Winnie the Pooh. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. This quote is one that I use to describe a very special place, which is, to no one's surprise, is Disney World. But these last 4 years have given me a new place to call home, and I will never forget my time here and the people in this room. Thank you and go Cats.
All right, folks, unless there are any other seniors in the room that would like to give a senior speech, we will go ahead and take a short 12-minute break between the end of this and the start of Senate. You can feel free to take your trash, dispose of it out in the union. Please don't put it in one of these small trash cans out in the vestibule. Go to the bathroom, get a drink, whatever, but make sure that you are back by 7 p.m.
So I had to taking it around the home.
But there has to be a good thing.
But you're one of them. And
Not too late now. This would say. Oh, wow. Speaker? Oh, yeah. Appreciate for
I'll call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America. And to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, March 9th, 2023 with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Pineda Gomez will take it away with our first roll call.
Thanks, Evan, and good evening, everyone. Anderson. Bannister. Bellamy.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Coy.
Here.
Cuesta.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole. Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Hubnig.
Here.
Kamen.
Here.
Kappelman.
Here.
Pershing.
Here.
Penzi. Long.
Here.
Morello.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Naretti. Lowry. Pelton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Pondillo.
Here.
Rogers. Syatt Nick. Salmon.
Here.
Schweier.
Here.
Spindler.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Strout. Suchanik.
Here.
Pauper.
Here.
Timon.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Volgamore. And Wolf. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We do have an open period speaker tonight, so please shut your laptops and give your full attention to Dr. Lane, Laurel, and Andy.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honor to be with you tonight, not only in terms of just hearing the last bit of the senior speeches that I got to hear, but it's great to be able to update you on a initiative that we have been working on for now almost 1.5 years. And that is our reimagining what the relationship can look like at K-State between the university and student organizations. And I'm going to have Laurel and Andy, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Laurel Moody, Assistant Dean in the Office of Student Life, Co-Advisor to the Judicial Branch.
I'm Andy Thompson, Senior Associate Dean of Students, Director in Student Life, and the other Co-Advisor to the Judicial Branch.
So to just give you a timeline of where we've been. So in little history, in 2017, the university made the decision to change its relationship with student organizations, creating 2 classes of student organizations, one called departmental student organizations and the other called independent student organizations. This is important because there was a big change that occurred with those organizations that were classified as independent student organizations. That would include club sports, many independent student organizations across a variety of interest areas, fraternities and sororities. And basically what that relationship did was really put at a large distance the university and those organizations. Since 2017, many voices have called out for a change or a rethinking of what that policy is. And so today's goal is to update SGA on where we've been at with regards to this policy development and be able to answer any questions that you might have in terms of how we might be going forward. Our hope is that in August 1st, we'll be able to introduce or implement a new recognition policy, a new student organization conduct policy, and an amnesty policy, which we'll be talking about with you this evening. Just a little more detail in terms, oh, sorry, how do I go back now? Which one? Thank you. So timeline, in summer of 2020, there were regulations that came out from the federal government in regards to Title IX, which looks at how institutions respond to sexual harassment, sexual discrimination, and it gave guidance to how universities should proceed with student organizations, Late summer of 2020, we had the action plan for a more inclusive K-State. There was protest activity that occurred throughout the summer of 2020. And part of that opportunity for the university was to take a really close look at the policies and procedures that it has, especially through an equity lens. And so a lot of conversation centered around our student organization policy and where does that fit in if we're taking a look at this through an equity lens. Student protest on sexual assault awareness. You probably had today's collegian that you had a chance to take a look at the article there. You can see that we still are working hard to try to improve the university's response and prevention efforts in regards to sexual assault, relationship violence. And then in spring of 2022, a group that was working together on policy submitted that came through that action plan for a more inclusive K-State that was informed by the student protest on sexual assault awareness. We presented a proposal to the provost office to have a restructured student organization model. And that was accepted. Work began in terms of putting policy language together. I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have, is this you, Andy? Thank you.
So there's a handful of policies as we do this work that are going to be impacted and have some change that are going to occur. One is the registration policy itself. So how do student organizations register and what are the guidelines that they need to achieve in order to be a recognized student organization at the university? The other, you see event policy there. As we've done this work, we realize that our university event policy and how student organizations go about registering events that would be considered a university sponsored program or activity, that needs a little bit of work. So that policy is still in process of being adjusted and we're still going to finish that up over the spring semester. We have a brand new policy that we've been working on, and that is the student organization conduct policy. We've never had a student organization conduct policy. We've always been a very individualized university in what we looked at as conduct. As we bring organizations back in, it's important that we have a way to hold organizational behavior accountable within the behaviors that are occurring in that context. We talked about the student amnesty policy, which Laurel's going to go to more in depth here in another slide. Additionally, then, the impact here, there is some impact to our individual conduct policies, okay? So we've got some student code of conduct language that needs to get updated and changed. That'll be for the next Senate here after spring break to do some revisions to. Also our threat management policy, 3010, which Dr. Lane has talked about, which is our anti-discrimination, anti-harassment policy. By broadening our jurisdiction into our student organization. So our fraternity houses, our club sports, events that organizations host off campus that we have determined fall under the event policy. All of these policies are now going to apply in terms of how we do individual conduct as well as the organizational conduct. I started to touch on that jurisdiction piece. We are still very much an on-campus or university-sponsored program or activity. But again, I hope you can hear that we're broadening that scope by bringing in our student organizations. And again, that's in response to what our students have been asking for. And you can see there the impact of change on some of those policies I just touched on.
All right, so since we created an entirely new policy, our student organization conduct policy, since this is something we hadn't done before, there were several different things that we considered as we developed this policy. Obviously, the university's commitment to self-governance and extending that to our student organizations and that expectation we have of accountability, that we have that for students. We want to extend that to things and behaviors that are happening in student organizations as well. So we looked at this and we said, what can we learn about student organization conduct? What universities are doing this already? What can we learn from them? Who's doing this work well? And what is that going to look like at K-State so that we can write a policy that feels right for our university? So as part of that, there were, I think, 6 of us in the fall who attended what's called the Gearing Academy, which is kind of like the gold standard for student organization conduct. These are people who do this work day in and day out. And that was like a, I think 5 or 6 day training that we participated in to learn about this, get some examples of what's going to happen, and learn from people to inform our policy. Additionally, oh, did I get everything on that?
Go back.
Oh, yeah. And we also connected with, there is a group of people that work in higher education who are informed by legal practice, who who are in part of fraternities and sororities, club sports, they put together something called the Model Student Organization Code. And that was what we used as a framework for the policy that we developed, which works for a lot of other schools. So in addition, I think if you go to the next slide, it talks about the student amnesty policy. So K-State already has an amnesty policy for alcohol-related incidents. That's something that SGA put forward. So that's definitely like a point of pride for our university that that was a student-led initiative that was enacted into state law. We would like to expand that policy to include amnesty for things other than just alcohol, but could include drug use, hazing, people who have been witnesses to incidents, reporting parties, witnesses to things. So we want to expand that policy to make sure that we are encouraging an environment where students feel comfortable coming forward and reporting things that are concerning to us. So that also hits a couple recommendations from the JET initiative that Dr. Lane and others are moving forward, and part of our culture of respect. So that was already something that was in the works and a recommendation.
So we've talked about the student organization conduct policy. We've talked about the amnesty policy. The third policy that we've been crafting has been the student organization recognition policy. And I want to make sure to highlight some differences between our previous policy and where we're hoping to go to for August. And I talked about departmental student organizations and independent student organizations. That nomenclature will no longer be what we use. So we'll be using language that is sponsored organizations. Those sponsored organizations typically have a departmental budget associated with them or a college budget associated with them. There are usually university staff members that are assigned to serve as advisors as part of their job description to those sponsored organizations. And then what used to be independent student organizations will no longer use that terminology of independent student organizations. We'll have affiliated student organizations. So again, we're one K-State. And we want to make sure that everyone recognizes the value that our student organizations bring to K-State. And affiliated organizations could be example, those would be our individual fraternity and sorority chapters, could be individual club sports teams. Now the councils that are the governance councils of those organizations. So for example, IFC, Pan-Hellenic Council, NPHC, those councils would be sponsored organizations because there'll be full-time staff that's associated with the advisement of those councils. The individual chapters would be considered affiliated student organizations. For both classes of organizations, and this is the big change that I want to make sure folks are aware of, but it's a really important one and it's a necessary one for us to move forward with rebuilding a relationship, is that every student organization will need to have an identified faculty or staff advisor. So one person who's either a faculty or a staff member at Kansas State University will need to serve as the student organization advisor. There's going to be advisor training that'll be provided through the Center for Student Involvement. There'll be an advisor acknowledgement form that advisors will be introduced to and learn about expectations. But really where the discussion of expectations occurs is between the student organization and the faculty or staff member that they're inviting or asking to be their advisor. So I'll be sharing this information also at the upcoming Faculty Senate meeting and be making sure that encouraging our faculty senators, I already spoke at the Dean's Council about this at the President's Cabinet, to start spreading the word that our student organizations are going to be inviting and asking faculty staff members to serve as advisors. And I think that relationship between a faculty staff advisor and a student organization can be a really positive one, not only for the student organization in terms of the support and guidance that that person can bring, it's also a powerful experience for the person who agrees to serve as an advisor, because you just get a different kind of relationship and interaction with the student organizations and the students that you're working with. Benefits of recognition include financial flexibility. Right now, for many of our student organizations, we don't allow outside checking accounts or outside bank accounts. That will change. Every student organization will be allowed to have an external bank account that if they want to, do fundraising and through pizza and get pizza from that, whatever that may be wanting to use for those dollars, they'll be able to do so. If they're receiving university dollars, so for example, SGA allocations, those would still need to go through the university accounting system and the oversight process that's with those funds. Training and guidance provided by the Center for Student Involvement, both to advisors and student organization leaders. I think in terms of conduct, we'll be supporting our student organizations when they struggle with an issue of accountability within their membership. And finally, we'll provide supports for any kind of high-risk activities that a student organization might want to put on for their organization or for the campus community to be able to provide professional support for that. I've been asked, why is it taking so long for this process to occur? And I put on this screen all of the stakeholders that are involved. And you can see that this, we talked about all the policies that are impacted, but look at the number of stakeholders that are impacted by this change. We're talking about a pretty significant cultural change at K-State, right? And so I just want to make sure that you're all aware that our communication plan is to continue to talk about this policy change, answer questions, and there's probably things that we might not have got right. And so we want to get feedback in regards to the policies. So what did we get right? What did we not get right? What do we need to continue to work on? There's resource implications for this policy change. So for example, we are just getting ready to hire or to do the hiring process, interview process in the Office of Student Life for an Assistant Dean of Conduct. In the fraternity sorority life realm, there's a full-time director of fraternity and sorority life that will be hired. There's currently a search that's just begun. Several students and others met with the search firm representative that's seeking out a new director for fraternity and sorority life. In addition, we'll be hiring an assistant director in the future. There will likely be implications in regards to our Title IX office. And in the CSI union activity space, we anticipate there's probably going to be additional work that happens in our Office of General Counsel. Just in terms of the amount of risk that we're assuming, there will likely be occurrences where we're going to need to have some legal work done. The next steps is we are finalizing the 3 policies that I spoke about: the student organization recognition policy, the conduct policy, and the amnesty policy. We've done a general presentation to the President's Cabinet and a general presentation to the Dean's Council. All received unanimous, overwhelming positive support for moving forward. So that's, I think, really, really an important step. We'll be talked about introducing SGA legislation that will be happening soon because there are code of conduct implications in regards to some of our policy changes. We'll complete the searches for those new positions that I mentioned. We have a robust communications plan. It's going to take a lot of voices and a lot of messaging to make sure that folks understand what the changes are, how it impacts them, and how they can be best preparing for those changes. And so we'll be rolling that out right after spring break with the goal of implementing these policy changes August 1st, 2023. We thought that date sounded really, really far away. It wasn't that far away. It's been a lot of work to get to this part. I know there's been lots of student voices that have participated in this process thus far. There will be more opportunities to do so, but we wanted to make sure to come in front of SGA tonight so that you had a good understanding of where we're currently at with this process and be able to answer any questions that you might have at this initial visit. Thank you.
Were there any questions? Yeah, Chair Long.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. One of the benefits of being this new policy was university support for high-risk activities. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so for example, if there are high-risk travel type of events, to be able to provide good guidance. When you're traveling with a group, what should happen, right? Well, how do you do that safe? That's the type of guidance. But we also have a number of different, for example, we have a different club sports. They engage in some fairly high-risk activity. We have a skydiving. I've skydived. I thought it was pretty risky. So, just to making sure that if we're doing that kind of activity, how do we do that in a way that helps keep everyone safe?
Chair Phillips.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming and for the update. I know that one of the, I don't know if you want to call it frustrations with the old policy was not being able to use things like the power cat.
Yeah.
Is that something that both classes of organizations will be able to use in the future?
I'm not going to be able to give you a full answer to this, but I will tell you, here's why. Currently, the university is going through a strategic planning process. Big part of that process is there's a subgroup that's looking at branding and logo usage and how do we market the entire university in the best cohesive way we can. Once that work gets done, then we'll have decisions made on the how to student organizations can what the appropriate logos they can use. But we've expressed interest that we know there's a lot of interest in PowerCat being used. We've looked at some other schools, and I think we've got some good examples of how we can meet the needs of student organizations, and then also meet the needs. There's some needs that athletics have. To give you an example, when you have a baseball team and you also have a club baseball, and those folks are going out and fundraising, how do you know which one you're giving your money to, right? And so those are the kinds of things we're going to have to work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Senator Sushanic.
So if every organization needs a faculty advisor, do you foresee there being a problem where a certain group can't find someone who's willing to be their advisor?
So I've worked on several campuses, 3 campuses, where this has been the structure where student organizations have been required to have faculty and staff advisors. I've yet to come across a situation where a student organization that wanted to form, had their 5 members, were able to form, had their constitution ready, were unable to find a faculty advisor to serve in that role. But theoretically, it could happen, right? It might take a little longer than what folks might think. It's not going to be an immediate, I'm going to ask this first person, they're going to say yes, perhaps. But at the 3 campuses that I've worked on, that's not been an issue.
Senator Griffith.
Do you think you could take us through the process of a new or existing organization when the changes go through getting that advisor?
So it'll be up to the organization to do that legwork for identifying a faculty staff advisor. And that's probably the way we want to have it, because you're going to know the faculty and staff members as individual students that you would think about inviting to be one of your advisors or to be your advisor, right? But we'll be maintaining a list within the Center for Student Involvement of those faculty and staff members who indicated, hey, I would like to have that experience. And so that would be the assistance that we'd be able to provide at CSI.
I just want to tag on to that. I think what Dr. Lang just mentioned, one of the advisors, right? The primary named advisor needs to be the faculty and staff members. So like for some of our fraternity story life organizations, you may have multiple advisors right now that are out in the community. Those folks can remain. You just got to recruit one faculty staff member to serve in that primary capacity in terms of that position.
That's a great point. Thank you. Yeah. So I want to make sure that if you have, for example, several advisors right now in your student organization, that doesn't need to change. But we just need to have one person who's a faculty staff member identified as the advisor of record for the purpose of student organization recognition. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Chair Bondillo.
Yeah, thank you guys for showing up, giving us this wonderful update. I had a question on sponsored boards. So since they do have like a department essentially backing them up, does the department have any say in the constitution which student board has?
I don't anticipate any changes in terms of what's currently a departmental board and a sponsor board. There may be some currently independent student organizations that might become a sponsored organization if there's a department that's interested in that responsibility on. But like, as you know it, in terms of a sponsor or a departmental organization, to stay fairly constant as a sponsored organization.
Senator Questa.
Yeah, so can you speak to what is the role of an advisor? What their specific obligations would be?
Yes, so we're in the process of developing an advisor acknowledgement form. And that's going to be basic expectations that any advisor would have. It's going to be expectations that what would a reasonable person do in such a situation, right? What's the reasonable expectations that our students ought to have of a faculty or staff advisor? But there's going to be expectations that the individual student organization is going to have in addition to what those basic advisor expectations are that the university has. And that's going to be a negotiation that happens when you're inviting that advisor. When I served as an advisor to Delta Chi, for example, for 10 years. The first time that they came and asked me about that, I said, well, tell me, what are you looking for? And so, okay, well, we need somebody to come to chapter meetings once a month. We'd like to have somebody that will help point us to university resources when we're looking to get support from the university. We're looking at for somebody who can take a look at the finances that we have, and if we don't understand something that's happening financially, they'd be able to take a look at that and see if they can provide any help. So those would be the types of expectations that we would have for them. I don't think it would be any kind of expectation that we would think would be cumbersome for them, if they're interested in serving that. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Any further questions? Senator Paz.
So one of the key stakeholders that was on there was the MSOs.
Yes.
And how do you plan on engaging and getting feedback of those policies from MSOs and MSOs?
Doing the same type of presentation that I'm doing here with our multicultural student organization leadership council and our ILC, probably 2 routes, and then probably also just email communication to student organization leaders across the spectrum. Is there any, if there's ideas that you have for increasing that communication, I'd love to hear them.
Senator Bannister.
What does the funding structure look like for the new position?
So for which positions are you talking about? The assistant director for student, that's coming from student life research. What's the other one I had? Oh, the FSL position are being, the director, full-time director position and the assistant director position is being funded by the IFC KSU government house.
Are there any further questions?
There was one more position, Will, that I didn't mention, and that is for club sports, recreational services is revamping a position that is enlisted competitive teams and everywhere else.
There's a question in the Zoom chat. Jeremy asks, how would this policy take in account for instances when an advisor goes on sabbatical for a semester or is working remotely? Would this just go back to the expectations the club has for the advisor?
Yeah, I think that'd be on an individual basis. I don't see somebody not being able to serve as an advisor because they were taking it to that. We want to try to make this as easy as we can for faculty and staff members to say, yes, we want to do this. So.
Will, did you have another question? Go ahead.
So you had mentioned the potential of the increased utilization of general counsel. Does that mean potentially more resources for general counsel? And if so, are the student organizations expected to contribute?
No, there would not be something to contribute. That would be a reason. I just don't truly know until we live into this policy for the first year or so, what those might be.
Coordinator Lynn.
Could you just talk a little bit about the types of feedback and work that you did with students when developing the policy?
Yeah, students participated on the work groups for the action plan for a more inclusive state policy group that was looking on this. We've talked with Training Sorority Life Leadership. We had talked with executive members of the Student Government Association. But again, our communications plan is now getting rolled out right after spring break. And so you can anticipate much more robust communication now that we've got what I think our arms around what we needed to get our arms. This has been a really complex piece. And so we did not want to come out and present anything until we had a good sense of, okay, this looked like it might work. And frankly, to be able to get administration buy-in.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Senator Blood.
When will we be allowed to view the specific wording of all the new?
Right after the next cabinet and both the next, let's say, president's cabinet. It was supposed to go next week, but cabinet got canceled, and so it's going to be 2 weeks. So right after that.
On what day?
I don't know. Okay. Tuesday that week. Your guess is good as mine right now.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
All right, unless there are any further first open period speakers this evening, we will go ahead and move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed on Tuesday along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Are there any questions or corrections for the minutes? Senator Griffith,
I just did some minutes. Sorry.
were there any questions or corrections for the minutes before I seek a motion to approve? Okay, seeing none, it's moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any objections? Also seeing none, the minutes will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into announcements for the evening. First up, we have, again, just the Senate executive application got thrown on there. So if you are interested in serving as a committee chair or any of the independent positions in SGA, you can click that link there. And just as a reminder, that form is going to close Friday, March 31st at 11:59 p.m. And then proxies, don't really need the proxies form anymore, but for our next student senate meetings next term, you can fill out that proxy link. Actually, no, don't use that one. There's going to be a different one. There's going to be a 23-24 one. Zoom request, props for Senate shout out link won't ever change. The SGA members of the week this week, I should say, are our advising team. Thank you to Dr. Lane, Derek, Andy, Laurel, Mirta, Jen, Sarah, Ashley, and Amy. We could not have made it happen without your support and advising over the course of the term. Upcoming events calendar, no meetings due to spring break. And the quote of the week this week is, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And that is Barack Obama. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into commendations for the evening. First up, we have Resolution 69. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 69? Chair Phillips.
I move to consider resolution 69.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 69. If the author will please come forward.
Alrighty, resolution 22-2369 is a commendation to Amy Button-Renz, authored by myself, Parker Volgamore, sponsored by Marta Richenberg, Stassi Mendoza, Josh Diaz de Leon, Jeff Ebeck, Juan Pineda Gomez, and Evan Porter. Whereas on January 11th, 2023, does everybody want me to read this whole thing? Okay. Whereas on January 11th, 2023, K-State Alumni Association President and CEO Amy Button-Renz, graduate of 76 and 86, announced her retirement after more than 45 years of service to Kansas State University. Whereas Renz earned 2 degrees from K-State, a bachelor's degree in political science in 1976, and a master's degree in public administration in 1986. And as a student, Renz was actively engaged in leadership on campus through many organizations, including student government. Whereas Renz began her career with the Alumni Association in 1977 and was named president and CEO in 1994, becoming the first female alumni director in the Big 8 and later the Big 12 Conference. Whereas Renz was instrumental in the creation of many programming efforts, including the Student Alumni Board and the K-State Student Ambassadors, and she served as the lead fundraiser for the Alumni Center building campaign. Whereas under her leadership, the Alumni Association has raised more than $6 million for student scholarships and recognition through the K-State License Plate Program and more than $3.7 million for student scholarships through the Wabash Cannonball Galas in Kansas City, North Texas, Houston, and Colorado. Whereas over the course of her career, Renz has been recognized for her service and leadership many times, including the Staley School of Leadership, Mike Holen Outstanding Leadership Award, the K-State Marching Band Directors Award, and the inaugural Amethyst Award, the highest honor bestowed by the university in recognition of extraordinary contributions. Whereas in 2014, she was named Blue Key Outstanding Faculty Advisor, and in 2016, she received the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Inc. Brandon L. Clark Alpha Excellence Award. And in 2020, Renz was recognized with the Lyle Butler Distinguished Leadership Award from the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. And whereas Renz is a shining example of lifelong leadership and commitment to Kansas State, and the K-State student body is extremely grateful for Amy Button-Renz's passionate support of students through her leadership at the Alumni Association. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends Amy Button-Renz for her leadership and service to Kansas State University and wishes her the best in retirement. Section 2, the annual SGA Outstanding Achievement Award shall be renamed the Amy Button-Renz Outstanding Achievement Award. Section 3, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to President and CEO of the K-State Alumni Association, Amy Button-Renz, Chair of the K-State Alumni Association Board of Directors, Candace Duncan, President and CEO of the K-State Foundation, Greg Willems, Chair of the K-State Foundation Board of Trustees, Carl R. Ice, Chair of the K-State Foundation Board of Directors, Mary Vanier, K-State Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, Gene Taylor, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Thanks, Parker. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Director Brown? You can fill out the sponsorship form that is in your inbox. Coordinator Lynn, was there a question?
I was gonna ask you to send out the sponsorship.
Check your inbox if you want to be a sponsor, folks. Are there any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thanks, Parker. You can take your seat. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 69? Senator Cuesta,
I move to approve resolution.
Second.
unanimously.
Yes, unanimous.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 69 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 69 will stand approved. And with that, is there a motion to consider Resolution 70?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 70, and I will come forward. Okay, this is, yeah, I'm on here. Resolution 22-2370, combination to Kathleen Hatch. Authors myself, sponsors Parker Volgamore and Juan Pineda Gomez. Whereas on August 31st, 2021, Kathleen Hatch was announced as the inaugural Morrison Family Associate Vice President for Student Wellbeing. Whereas Hatch received her bachelor's degree from the University of Calgary in 1985, a master's degree from Oregon State University in 1987, and completed a certificate in sports and sustainability at the Presidio Graduate School in 2014. Whereas Hatch is committed to advancing student well-being, having served in multiple leadership roles related to health and wellness across the United States and Canada. Whereas leadership roles held by Hatch include Director of University Recreation, Executive Director of University Recreation, and Assistant Vice President for Campus Life at Washington State University, Executive Director of Recreational Sports at The Ohio State University, and Morrison Family Associate Vice President for Student Wellbeing at Kansas State University. Whereas Hatch has a distinguished record of service to the National Intramural and Recreational Sports Association, NIRSA, including as a committee member and chair, regional vice president, commission member, foundation board member, NIRSA board member, and NIRSA president. And whereas by providing exemplary service to NIRSA and making significant contributions to the field of collegiate recreation, Kathleen Hatch earned NIRSA's highest honor and was named the recipient of the 2023 NIRSA Honor Award. Be it resolved that Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends Kathleen Hatch for receiving the 2023 NIRSA Honor Award and for her commitment to the health and well-being of students at K-State and around the world. In section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Morrison Family Associate Vice President for Student Wellbeing Kathleen Hatch, the NIRSA Honor Award Committee, NIRSA President Neela Paget, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Thanks, Evan. Are there any questions for the speaker? Or is there a motion on Resolution 70? Senator Cuesta.
I move to approve resolution 70.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 70 unanimously. Are there any objections?
Seeing none, Resolution 70 will stand approved. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and move into committee reports for the evening. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Phillips.
That one. All right, folks. So last student services fee update from me this year, and it's a good one. So I presented this to the Student Services Fee Committee on Monday and also met with administration earlier that Monday to get this information. So what you're looking at up here is this is kind of the sheet that we go over when we meet with administration on the student services fee, and we get our financial outlook for the year. That outlook comes after we get our spring 20th day enrollment numbers. And the reason that that's a big deal is because our fee collections kind of become set after those 20 days, because except for extenuating circumstances, normally if people withdraw from the university after that point, they don't get their money back. So we know that this is pretty set in stone. So really quick, I just want to hit you through or run you through what all of this means up here. So these first three columns, you see that summer, fall, and spring. this is how much we collected from the student services fee this year compared to last year. So the one thing that I will note is that we got a lot more money than we were expecting in the summer, which was really, really good. Very good news from us. We dropped in the fall and the spring, but that was expected because we've had declining enrollment over the past few years. Evan, if you go down a little bit. Oh, I forgot you weren't controlling. That's my bad. So over to the right, you'll see that $657,000 number. So at this point in time last year, we expected to have a $657,000 deficit in our student services fee. For context, when COVID hit, we had a $4 million deficit. The year after, we had $2.1 million deficit. So this was our expectation coming into this year. Not a good number to have. But that number in B23 is what ended up being our actual deficit of $13,000, which is phenomenal. The last time that we were at a level similar to this was back in 2017. So we have done a lot of good work on the Student Services Fee Committee, realigning our expenses with our revenue. So can I get a big clap for this year's committee and all the other committees from this point? In Senate Exec this week, our attendance question was, what was your favorite moment from your SGA term? And this was mine, because this was 3 years of hard work that paid off. So next year, we expect to be hopefully budget neutral, but potentially even in the black, which is phenomenal, crazy. And I really appreciate everyone's hard work on that. Evan, if you'll scroll, sorry, Bryce, if you'll scroll down. I don't know. Okay, so keep going, Bryce. There you go. So this is what we use to project out what our potential student services fee deficits, or hopefully not deficits, will look like. So in the event that we still see some declining revenue, we expect these to be our deficits, being $10,000 and $51,000. And that assumes that we do absolutely nothing. We don't increase budgets. We don't cut budgets. We don't raise the fee. So that is still a good position to be in, but we have a little bit of confidence that we might actually get close to that second scenario where we have a little bit of money to give out and give increases to entities in a targeted fashion. So that's where we want to be. We know that a lot of entities have taken cuts over the years. Some of those aren't sustainable. So we want to be able to give some money back to some of those entities in a smart, budget responsible way, because that got away from us in the past. And that's something that we need to keep in mind in the future. And then Bryce, if you hit the multi-year comparison sheet to the right. Many of you remember this chart that I showed you all last fall. At the time, if you take off that furthest bullet point to the right, that's what our chart looked like. So you can clearly see where COVID hits on this graph. The purple is our SSF budget. The gray is our SSF revenue. So back in 2021, absolute dip, $4 million deficit. The year after, we changed how we assess the student services fee. So it used to be, if you are taking any online classes, you don't pay the student services fee for those classes. We changed it so that if your primary degree program is in person, but you're just happening to take an online class, you still pay the full student services fee because you can still access all of those benefits. But if you are 100% online, you probably can't access those benefits, so you don't pay anything. And so we gained a lot more revenue from that. And that's where our extra summer revenue came from, because I took a K-State summer class this semester or over the summer, and I paid the student services fee for that because I'm a primarily in-person student. So that's kind of how that works. And so I will just point you to the 2023 bullet point. We're expected to be in line with revenue and budget. So this has been the hard work that we've been doing over the past 3 years to make those lines touch, and it looks like they're going to. So just wanted to give you all that update, my final student services fee update. It's good news this time, and I'm really looking forward to future committees so we can really start to evaluate the quality the entities bring and give them increases or decreases accordingly. And let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much. You can take your seat. With that, are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? And are there any directors that would like to give a report tonight? Deputy Attorney General Polson.
Hi, everyone. I legislatively have to do this once a year, at least my position does, and that just happens to be tonight. So hi, everyone. My name is Hattie Polson. I'm the current Deputy Attorney General, incoming Attorney General for this next year. So I'm not leaving anytime soon. But for tonight being, I give you the state of the judicial branch. So what is the judicial branch? Great question. I'm so glad you asked. So we have three branches, right? Our legislative, our executive, and then our judicial. Judicial is made up of the Parking Citations Board, the Student Review Board, and Student Tribunal. And then, of course, Deputy Attorney General, me, and our current lovely Attorney General, Ms. Kathleen Cowell. Yes, wonderful. Next slide. So the Student Review Board hears cases involving alleged or potential violations to the Student Code of Conduct. Earlier tonight, we heard about the Student Org Policy Code of Conduct and how that's going to affect the Student Code of Conduct. That's what we are talking about. SRB is currently composed of 6 members. We only need 5 whenever we conduct a case, so we have 1 person out to rotate in. Student Tribunal serves as the means for appealing judicial rulings and has the power to interpret SGA governing documents. It's currently composed of 4 members. Tribunal is a really cool group that doesn't get utilized enough. You have the power to say, hey, we want you to interpret this for us. And there's students whose jobs are to do that. So have them do those things when you want something interpreted. Next, please. Okay, updates and significant changes. Obviously, the Student Organization Code of Conduct. We talked a lot about what this is. It's going to be enacted this fall. I think everyone was here for that, but if you were not, it's going to be a tool for the university to guide our student organizations and have a little bit more of accountability. But with that comes pending Student Code of Conduct changes. So in the coming weeks, aka the week after spring break, you all are going to see some legislation come forth, making some additions to our Student Code of Conduct. And the goal of that legislation is going to be that the org policy and the student policy mirror each other, that it's the same language. And then finally, we're recruiting members for this next year. So the application actually opened yesterday. It's going to be due March 24th, leadership interviews on March 30th, and general interviews on April 6th. So if you're interested in trying out a different branch or wonder what we do, because can't talk about a lot of it, I highly recommend that you apply. It's been a wonderful experience, and I cannot speak highly enough of this branch. Next slide. Apply. Look at that, a QR code for your convenience to do right now. And I'll probably send an email because we have lovely little SGA email groups, and I'll get that out there too. Questions?
Yeah, Senator Blood.
Who is allowed to request a interpretation of the governing documents in tribunal?
Anyone in student government, any group, any person, anything.
Are there any further questions? Chair Pondello.
Yeah, is there any cap for like numbers that you take in of members? with judicial?
Ooh, there is not a cap. So we operate out of we can rotate through, which is wonderful when you have lots of cases. But I like it when we don't have lots of cases. Anything else?
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Hattie.
Thank you.
Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Elections Commissioner News.
Okay, perfect. So the elections report is super duper long. So I'm going to focus on some of the most important aspects. And I am more than happy to send this out to all of you as well. If there's some of the details that you guys want to catch up on, ask me things about. If we can scroll down to the recommended changes portion, I'm just going to go ahead and kick it off there. And if we have time, we can come back. But yeah. So as far as my recommended changes, to start it off, I would definitely recommend selecting the elections commissioner earlier. Getting into this position, a little bit later, I definitely think makes it a little bit difficult. It takes a lot of time to gain knowledge about the process, and especially the statutes are very dense. There's a lot of information, and it can be very difficult to sort of catch up on that as you're already in the election process. I know for me personally, one of the things that I struggled with was I was making decisions while I was still learning. And I think that my time and your time could be better utilized if we had this position implemented just a little bit earlier. Additionally, with the elections committee, I had a great committee, but I definitely think having more time to pick those people out and find people who are truly passionate about elections is certainly a benefit to that as well. Another recommended change is voter promotion. This year, I think I kind of narrowed my focus towards, people running as opposed to voter turnout, because that was the bigger issue at hand throughout this election season. And I do think there is a balance with that. I definitely, tried to create, a little bit of balance, but I think in the future, sort of moving towards voter promotion as opposed to purely candidates might be a way to sort of get the community engaged as well, so that they might run themselves. Mandatory meetings for the next elections commissioner, I would recommend providing fewer mandatory meetings, as some had very few attendance and that kind of felt a little redundant. So we should definitely limit those meetings. If individuals cannot attend a mandatory meeting, then I would recommend them sign up for an allotted time. I did have a separate meeting. Usually it's 2 meetings, but with the president and vice president candidates, I kind of combined that into 1 meeting and did a week that they could sign up. I think that went very well. It made their time better useful, my time better useful. But one of the things I would say is to be a little bit stricter on mandatory meetings. I noticed myself being quite gracious with people who didn't attend. I even made a extra mandatory meeting because there were certain people that I felt would really want to attend, but weren't able to. And I think one of the things that we just have to note as student senate, and I had to know as elections commissioner, is that at a certain point, you have to start cutting people off. And I think that in the future, that's what needs to happen. There needs to be strict guidelines from me, and you all need to be capable of fulfilling those guidelines. And I would focus on promoting SGA throughout the year. I know that there's been, some talk about involvement, and obviously things have been difficult since COVID. Just everything is in general, but I definitely think, possibly bringing back SGA week, or doing my personal favorite idea, bring a friend to SGA week with some sort of incentive can get people to come learn more about it. So moving on now to the elections committee overview. I'm not going to read them all, but you have all the committee members listed there. Committee task, they helped me send emails to advisors of their selective colleges, helped to solicit sororities and fraternities, create questions for the fireside chat, on and on and on. We'll move on to the candidate breakdown. So for the total candidacies, and this includes also not just Senate, with 67. For student body president, we had 1. Student senate, we only had 46 this year. Agriculture, 8 out of 7. APD, 1 out of 2. Arts and sciences, 10 out of 12. Business, 10 out of 9. Education, 2 out of 3. Engineering, 10 out of 10. Graduate, 2 out of 8. Health and human sciences, 3 out of 8. And veterinary medicine, 0 out of 1. Obviously, things changed when we got to the actual election. A lot of people, weren't able to file at a certain point or came on later on. And so it all worked out in the end. But moving down to the general election breakdown and results, and I think that this will sort of reiterate what I was saying for my recommended changes. It's pretty apparent that student senate has been struggling to retain numbers, and I think that that's something that I would like every single person in this room to focus on. I think something I discussed with some people as well is perhaps getting caucus members involved as well for their specific college. Because at the end of the day, it's every one of you and me trying to make this election happen. And I just think that's of the greatest benefit to us all. Going down a little bit on this, you can see the voter difference. Every single one is negative. And I don't think that that's a good look for us. Obviously, I tended to focus more on getting people to run and file. But I also think it's really important that we are focusing on voter turnout in the future as well. Moving down a little bit, you'll see some more of the numbers. So voter votes difference, we had 4 more votes in APD, 1 more vote in vet medicine. One of the things I want to touch on was that one of the colleges had a difficulty with the vote format. They replaced individuals within that college. If you were a junior, senior, you only had access to the graduate student ballot because it was technically a master's program. And so that's why some people had difficulty. It's an IT issue, nothing we could have done, nothing the advisors could have done, but I do want to assure you all that that has been focused on and that has been handled. Moving down, we can skip through all of this part because these are just the postings that you'll find online, but there will be future postings as well. And we can go to the election schedule. Sorry, there's a lot of images. Okay. So, filing opened January 10th. I do wish that I was able to do the early filing that they were last year, but I had to prepare everything with the date that I was put in. And so that just wasn't able to happen. But I do think that when Reed did that, that was a good implementation that we should carry on. Continuing down, you can see when we had all of the appointments. As you can see, I also had an extra general mandatory meeting. And so you see that took up almost every Tuesday and Thursday of my life for about a month and a half. So I do think that it's better for you guys to respect my time and me to respect your time to come to those and maybe limit those numbers as well. For elections violations, we had, I believe, let me check. We had about 6 complaints, and that's and about half of those are mine. And I believe that's one of the things that we all need to focus on during Senate as well. I wasn't able to attend Senate meetings because I was in judicial, but I would be happy if you guys were to report those as well. I mean, I believe that if I probably came on here at a Thursday, which I couldn't, and went around the room and looked at everyone's computers, I probably would have found a few stickers and nobody, reported that. So it is one of those systems where we all have to hold each other accountable, even if I'm not there to do that for you. Obviously, we had submitted statute amendments, but that will be tabled for now. And then I just want to conclude here with my parting thoughts. I'm not going to read this word for word, but I just wanted to thank everyone throughout this experience. I'm honored to be served as the election commissioner. And I wanted to thank everyone who had the faith in me to take on this role. It wouldn't have been the same without everyone that supported me. And one of the organizations that I do really hope the SGA continues to work with in the future is Wildcat 91.9. They did amazing things for me. They contacted me every single day. Even when I hadn't yet sent them something, they'd be like, hey, could you send me this? We want to announce it on the radio. They did amazing things. Another aspect within this that I want to focus on is many previous senators have noted to me that they did not intend to run this year. And I think that shows, sort of a lack of retention among students. As the elections commissioner, I utilize my role to reach departments, often lacking by reaching out to advisors and soliciting chapters. Despite this, it does take an active role throughout the year for students to engage in the presence of SGA. It doesn't help much for me to go in there in 3 months and tell everyone how amazing SGA is. It needs to be something that's implemented to them throughout the year. Another thing that I want to note is just on, a more serious topic. Obviously, SGA is a very important organization. And as SGA, we're here as leaders. That's our role. We're here to lead those around us and lead other people. One of the things that I took away from the elections is that certain people need to, step up in those positions for those below them to encourage other people to run. I know sometimes it can be, a hard system, especially in my position with people, above me, as well as, helping people throughout elections. And I think it's a good role if the people above have respect for those below them, as well as others below having respect for those above them. And I do think that that's something that, could be improved this election season, is every single person in this room being able to take that seriously, no matter who you are, no matter what position you have. we're all here elected by the students. And I think that we all need to recognize and not take our positions for granted. Because at the end of the day, you're here to represent those around you. And that is what I have for you today as far as the elections report. There's more information at the top as well, but I'm open for questions.
Chair Pondillo.
Yeah, so it's not a question, just praise. You came to DEI and really helped us out. I'm trying to like get other people to join. You've done tireless work, and it shows through this and throughout everywhere. So give a round of applause.
Senator Griffith.
When will this information be publicly available?
So as far as publicly available, in the past, it hasn't necessarily been posted anywhere, but I can certainly make it available to people upon request. But as far as public availability, it's not anywhere right now currently.
Any further questions? Senator Blood.
Your report outlined the members of the election committee. Who are the members of the election?
So the election board, it always has the attorney general. So it was me, Hattie, and then Parker, who would ask questions at the hearings as well.
Are there any further questions? Senator Blood.
What was your reasoning behind writing the proposed changes to the election code that you have in your report?
Yeah, so as far as my reasoning, obviously I wasn't throughout the election able to make a lot of changes because I was kind of focused on that. I think just throughout, I wanted to sort of limit things that I might have seen or heard that I think might be controversial in the future, just to sort of put a label on things and make things clear. I think a lot of times some things in the statutes can be worded confusing. And so that's why I had proposed that. But I do think there's other aspects that aren't necessarily as clear yet that need to be defined before bringing that up to make the whole thing kind of cohesive.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Natalie. You can take your seat. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? President-elect Stout.
As Evan just said, I am the new student body president-elect. And as Natalie just outlined, it was a very tight race. So we're glad to have that behind us. But now we're excited to move into the role. You all should have received an email from me at approximately 5 p.m. About chief of staff applications. So that should officially be open. And that's our first order of business with our new administration. So anyway, I just wanted to come up here, introduce myself, talk about the application. So my name is Caleb. If I hadn't had a chance to meet you yet, I'm a junior studying agricultural economics. Really excited to serve in this position, get to know you all as people were giving their senior speeches. I know we've been talking about the problems that we have with retention and recruitment, but I think it is exciting to look around the seniors in this room and just see their passion and their dedication. And it's an honor to serve an organization that keeps those people around. So if there's anything I can do for you, reach out to me, come talk to me. I'm excited to work with you all, and I'm excited to get to know you all better. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Caleb. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? I have one. Bryce, will you pull up my PowerPoint? Okay, really quick. I just wanted to go over some of the numbers from the 2022-2023 term. Bryce, if you can go to the next slide. You spent 2,516 minutes in student senate this SGA term. I went back in the minutes. If you saw me furiously typing on my calculator during senior speeches, that's what I was doing, was adding up that number. So props to all of you for bearing with us through those 2,500 minutes. If you can do quick math in your head, that is more than 40 hours. So you spent more than one full-time work week in student senate. So way to go for that. Next slide, please, Bryce. Your top funding. It got formatted on the Awesome. I made this as a Google slide and downloaded it as a PowerPoint. So SSF total budget this year was $14,377,958. So that was your top funding. Well done. Second top funding, also by SSF, we did $1,292,000 in those one-time funds. Third, is tuition enhancements. We had $930,920 allocated. Fourth is SAC. We had $216,843. And last but not least, well, actually, yes, least, we had $146,369 allocated from DEI through the Diversity Programming Fund. Thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into approval of the allocations. First up, we have Bill 104, which is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Engineering Student Council. They requested $400 and were recommended $100 for the National Association of Engineering Student Councils National Conference. And Bill 105, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Omega Delta Phi Fraternity, Inc. They requested $1,000 and were recommended $760 for the Omega Delta Phi Pig Roast Spring 2023. Is there a motion to approve the allocations? Chair Thomas.
I move to approve the allocation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the allocations. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the allocations will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into final action. First up, we have Bill 107. Senator Blood.
Mr. Speaker, I move to discharge Bill 2223-110 from the Senate Operations Committee into final action.
All right. So Brian just made a motion that we've never had to deal with before. So before I seek a second, I will explain what the motion to discharge is. Basically, any committee that gets referred a piece of legislation that doesn't refer that back to Student Senate with a recommendation, we can pull that piece of legislation from the committee. So Bill 110 was held for 1 week in the Senate Operations Committee, which means that they haven't referred it back with a recommendation, which means that we can discharge it by a 2/3 majority vote of Student Senate. For a reminder, Bill 110 was that one making changes to the Elections Regulations Code related to like giveaways of items of monetary value. Are there any, is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, that is a debatable motion. Since Brian made the motion, he has first rights to debate.
So I think typically in any other time in the Senate's term, it would make perfect sense for the Senate Operations Committee to hold a bill for 1 more week, think about it a little bit more, talk about it, and amend it. However, at the period of time we're at right now, where it is the last regular meeting of the term, holding that bill for 1 week effectively kills that bill. And I think that this bill has unique value and should be included in this term's work. And if the body and if the Senate Operations Committee and the current elections commissioner wishes to make additional changes in the next term of Student Senate, that is 100% their prerogative. However, this bill was introduced to us here. I think the bill itself and the wording of the bill makes perfect sense and provides a need that addresses something that came up during the elections this year, including a violation complaint that was made, and that therefore we should discharge this from the committee and allow the entire body itself to vote on it and allow everyone here who has an opinion to voice that opinion on the bill and the merits of the bill itself, rather than just letting it die in committee and not allowing it to come out here onto the floor for us to debate the actual merits of the bill amongst everyone, given that it was already introduced to us and inherently has merit as it's written right now.
Thank you, Brian. Seeing as that was debate and the positive on the motion to discharge, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Chair Thomas.
Hey guys, the reason that this bill was tabled indefinitely is because the authors chose to do so. They want to make changes on it. They still agree with the idea, but they think that the bill needs to be amended, it needs to be changed, and no decision coming out of this legislation, no conversations coming out of this specific meeting are going to impact anything that happened in the previous election because it's coming out after the fact. All of this can be handled and can be thought through and can be revised in the next term. There's no reason to discharge it when the author of the bill voted to table it.
Thanks, Kate. Seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the positive. Also, just for information, that is Bill 110 up on the screen. Were there any speeches in the positive? Any further speeches in the negative? Chair Talbert.
Yeah, just kind of reinstating what Kate said. The literal author of the legislation has made it clear that there is changes to be made to this legislation. And that's the whole reason why it's being held. We're not trying to kill this indefinitely. Like Senate Operations, anyone that was in our meeting, we literally called Natalie and talked with her. And we came to the conclusion that the things that we want to see done with this legislation is going to happen next term because we want to like actually take our time with it. So I think trying to pull this out right now is just a big political stunt and really like defeats the entire purpose of what this legislation is trying to accomplish.
Thanks, Bentley. Seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the positive. Chair Pondillo.
Hey guys, so I don't think that there was ever a stunt. I think the stunt was 3 people voting to essentially table it indefinitely. So this is just giving you guys a voice to amend it. There has been time to have amendments to it. I feel as if they've gone and passed. I think the bill as written, as I'm a sponsor, looks fine. You can always add on to stuff. I think this would be a great start into the next term to add on, but I think untabling it and bringing it back to the floor is where it should be.
Thanks, Joseph. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there, Senator Pilchard, was this positive or negative? Granted.
Yeah, just to clarify on what a previous speaker said, largely the reason for the motion was that a lot of the language within the bill was kind of a bit confusing, especially around the kind of scroll down to clause 6 of section 1, kind of just, well, L, sorry, just scroll down if you can. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, so distribution of items and monetary value kind of obviously many would probably initially think that when looking at that statement, it would simply just mean like the sale or purchasing of an item, but there has been some debate within the Senate Operations Committee largely around the idea that this word in particular has some phrasing or meaning that could also be kind of extended, implied, and therefore vague. And we wanted to kind of help clarify that. Obviously, as well, the Elections Commissioner herself has stated that she is looking to make some changes to this legislation. So there's not really much in terms of the weight of trying to hold a vote for that now. I yield my time.
Thanks, Ethan. Seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the positive. Right. Yeah, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question of privilege. There was noted that the author is the one that went to the table all this. I was curious what the sponsors thought on. I don't know if you had any information what the sponsors thought on this, or if they also agree with the author.
Well, a previous speaker was one of the sponsors and made their position clear. I'm also a sponsor. No comment. Did that answer your question, Jeremy?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Thank you. Speech in the positive, Caucus Leader Bellamy, granted.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this got knocked out of Ops Committee on a vote of 2 votes to 1 vote. I think in the spirit of democracy that we should at least talk about this bill. Thanks.
Thanks, Drew. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative on the motion. Chair Talbot.
Yeah, just kind of responding to a former speaker who said that like, this is a democracy, we should just, talk about this. The whole point of why we're holding it is so that we can reintroduce it this next term, but it actually be what the actual person who wrote this wants to actually happen. So by us debating this right now, it would literally defeat the entire purpose of what this body is supposed to do, which is to write effective legislation and to make sure that we're making positive impacts. I think it's silly for us to purposefully try to debate and talk about legislation that we're going to bring back, but better. I just don't see the point in like trying to rush like these things when the next election won't happen until January. So it's just kind of silly to try to do this all right now, as if we don't have an entire year to work on this.
Thanks, Bentley. Seeing as that was debate in the negative, we're now seeking speeches in the positive on the motion. Chair Paul, or no, Senator Coy.
Okay, so obviously I'm in support of pulling this from committee just to debate it on the floor for several reasons. One, it gives us a voice in this matter because we're the body it was introduced to originally. So why don't we get a matter in the say of if it gets voted down? So then Senate next term can vote on it and figure this out. And my next point is, why wasn't it amended this past week while it was in committee? Why didn't they do the work? Why didn't they stay a little bit longer in their committee meeting to get this figured out?
Thanks, Riley. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Senator Bannister.
So a previous speaker had mentioned something about a political stunt. I do not personally think this is a political stunt, but I do think it is in close proximity to a political stunt that did happen related to this. I personally think that is too close for the body to seriously discuss it, considering we just had a case over this, which was fairly polarizing and a lot of people, including myself, disagreed with. So I think the body needs a little bit of time and separation from that, and there needs to be some more due diligence on behalf of everyone here in the Senate to ensure that we have good outcomes, because our legislative documents are very important and we should protect them at all costs. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion, we're now seeking speeches in the positive. Chair Long.
Call the previous question. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to call the previous question. Are there any objections?
I object.
Senator Blood objects. We'll go ahead and move into a hand vote. All those in favor of moving to the previous question, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Senator Quest, did you have a motion?
Yeah, I call for a vote. Second.
Okay. Are there 15 of you that also want a roll call vote? Raise your placards. That is not 15. Hand vote. All those in favor of the motion to discharge, which means that we will debate on this. It will move into final action. Please raise your placards now. All opposed, same sign. That motion fails. With that, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 107. If the author will please come forward. Joseph, that's you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So sorry.
Were any changes made?
There was no changes made.
Your first rights to debate.
Okay, so this is very like cut and dry. Just change the name to DEI to DEIB to be more unified with the university and their stance on that. Keeping it short and brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Seeing how that was debate in the positive on Bill 107, are there any speeches in the negative? Chair Phillips.
I move to bulk roll call bills 107 and 1. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to bulk roll call bills 107 and 111. Is this a debatable motion? It is not a debatable motion. Are there any objections? Seeing none, that Carries. Okay, we're still debating on Bill 107. Are there any negative speeches on Bill 107? Or 110? 111? Apologies, not 110. Okay, are there any further speeches in the positive on Bills 107 or 111? Seeing none, I'll move us into that right now.
Was debate exhausted on Bill 107?
Yes.
Okay. We are now moving into final action on Bill 111. If the author will please come forward. Or you can yield your first rights to debate.
I yield.
Anyone want to claim them?
Let's go.
Okay, seeing no debate, we'll go ahead and move into a bulk roll call on Bills 107 and 111.
All right, folks, you know the drill.
Do they know
Yes
the
to
drill?
both, no to both. Yes to 107, no to 111, or any combination of that sort. You can also pass and I'll come back around to you or abstain on either of them. Sounds great. Okay, Anderson,
Just put proxy. Yes,
to both.
both I went.
Okay, Bannister,
Yes to both.
Barron,
Yes to both by proxy.
Bellamy,
Yes to both.
Blood,
Yes to both.
Broughton,
Yes to both.
Brown, Compton,
Yes to both.
Boyd,
Yes to both.
Questa,
Yes to both.
Dennis,
Yes to both.
DePaz,
Yes to both.
Stoll, Glasscock,
Yes to both.
Griffith,
Nay to both.
Heatherman,
Yes to both.
Hoffman,
Both yes.
Hubnik,
Yes to both.
Hammond,
Yes to both.
Kaplan,
Yes to both.
Kirshen,
Yes to both.
Yes
Kidd,
to both by proxy.
Herman,
Yes to both by proxy.
Penzi, Long,
Yes to both.
Morello,
Yes to both.
Murphy,
Yes to both.
Moretti, Navarro, O'Malley,
Yes by proxy.
To both.
Lowry,
Yes to both.
Felton, Phillips,
Yes to both.
Pilchard,
I to both.
Bondillo,
Yes to both.
Rogers, Syatt Carly,
Yes to both by proxy.
Syatt Nick,
Yes to both.
Solomon,
Yes to both.
Schreier,
Yes to both.
Spindler,
Yes to both.
Stout,
Yes to both.
Stroud, Suchanik,
Yes to both.
Colbert,
Yes to both.
Timmon,
Yes to both.
Thomas,
Yes to both.
Bulgamore,
Yes to both.
and Wolf. All right, folks. And bills 107 and 111 will pass on a vote of 38 to 1-0 each. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Seeing as that was final action on Bill 107, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 108. If the author will please come forward. Were any changes made?
No changes.
That's not true.
Wait.
We changed the no more than two.
Oh, we,
Up to two.
in line, oh, Bryce, stop moving. Go back up. No, okay, down, sorry. Down a little bit. Right there, stop. Okay, in line 61, it changed from up to 2 5-week classes in the fall semester. We changed that to a minimum of 1, but no more than 2 5-week classes during the fall semester.
You have first rights to debate.
Okay. Yeah, so the intent of this bill was really just to clean up some of the governing documents in terms of what the Emerging Leaders Program is actually doing. A lot of these changes are just reflective of some of the current practices with the program, particularly the ones about having minimum and maximum caps on number of students allowed to join the program. I just found those to be pretty arbitrary numbers, and I never want to be in a position where we're limiting the number of people that we're taking into our body if we can at all avoid it. So that's kind of the reasoning behind taking some of those out. And then a couple of those other things like the changing it to up to 5-week classes, giving the emerging leaders coordinators just a little bit more flexibility in terms of the duties and the amount of time that that role can take up, dependent on the interest and things like that from the student body. So yeah, I would urge you all to vote yes on this, just to make that a little bit more consistent with our current practices.
Thanks, Peyton. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative on Bill 108. Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote on Bill 108.
All right, folks, roll call vote on Bill 108. Anderson. Bannister.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy.
Yes.
Blood.
Yes.
Broughton.
Yeah.
Brown. Compton.
Yes.
Coy.
Yes.
Questa.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
DePaz.
Yeah.
Dole. Glasscock.
Yeah.
Griffith.
Aye.
Heatherman.
No.
Hoffman.
Yep.
Hubnig.
Yeah.
Hammond.
Yes.
Kappelman.
Yes.
Pershing.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes, by proxy.
Kermer. Penzi. Long.
Yes.
Morello.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Moretti. Navarro. O'Malley.
Stay by proxy.
Lowry.
Yes.
Felton. Phillips.
No.
Pilchard.
Yes.
Bondillo.
Yes.
Rogers. Syatt Carly.
Yes, by proxy.
Syatt Nick.
Yes.
Salmon.
Yes.
Schweier.
Yes.
Spindler.
Yes.
Stout.
Yes.
Sprout. Suchanik.
Yes.
Albert. Timmons. Thomas.
Yeah.
Bulgamore. And Wolf. All right, thanks, folks. Bill 108 will pass on a vote of 34 to 4-1.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Seeing as that was final action on Bill 108, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 109. If the author will please come forward. Were any changes made?
No.
Your first rights to debate.
These changes reflect the current operating procedure of the Strategic Oversight Committee. I encourage you to pass them.
Thanks, Nick. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on Bill 109, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Any further speeches in the positive? Any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote on Bill 109.
All right, folks, roll call vote on Bill 109. Anderson.
Yes.
Bannister.
No.
Barron.
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy.
Yes.
Blood.
Pat.
Broughton.
Yes.
Brown. Compton.
Yes.
Coy.
Yes.
Questa.
Yes.
Dennis.
Abstain.
DePaz. Dole. Glasscock.
Yes.
Griffith.
Pat.
Heatherman.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yep.
Hubnig.
Yes.
Hammond.
Yes.
Kappelman.
Yes.
Pershing.
Yes.
Kidd.
Yes, by proxy.
Firmer,
Yes, by proxy.
Penzi, Long,
Yes.
Morello,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Moretti, Navarro,
Yes, by proxy.
O'Malley, Lowry,
Yes.
Pelton, Phillips,
Yes.
Pilchard,
Yes.
Pondillo,
Yes.
Rogers, Syatt Carly,
Yes, by proxy.
Syatt Nick,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Schweier,
Yes.
Spindler,
Abstain.
Stout,
Yes.
Stroud, Suchanik,
Yes.
Hopper,
Yes.
Timon, Thomas,
Yes.
Bulgamore, and Wolf. All right, folks, Bill 109 will pass on a vote. Oh, excuse me, the passes. Flood
Yes.
and Griffith.
Abstain.
Sorry about that. And Bill 109 will pass still on a vote of 36 to 1-3.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. With that, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 113. If the author will please come forward. While you're walking up, Blake, were any changes made? You have first rights to debate.
All right, Bill 113. So again, this legislation just decreases the SGA budget. This was our last big review of the year for the Student Services Fee Committee. We feel that there was a lot of good work put into this by the committee, and we feel that a 3% reduction initially for SGA will not substantially harm our ability to provide outreach to students. It also works with JCOC and just hits a little bit of our discretionary budget. That again will go up to adjust for tuition raises. So I strongly encourage you to vote yes.
Thanks, Blake. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote on Bill 113.
All right, folks, roll call vote on Bill 113. Anderson, Bannister,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy,
Yes.
Blood,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Brown, Compton,
Yes.
Coy,
Yes.
Questa,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
DePaz,
Yeah.
Dole, Glasscock,
Yes.
Griffith,
Aye, Captain.
Heatherman, Hoffman,
Yeah.
Hubnig,
Yes.
Hammond, Capelman,
Yes.
Kirshen,
Yes.
Kidd,
Yes, by proxy.
Firmer,
Yes, by proxy.
Penzi, Long,
Yes.
Morello, Murphy,
Yes.
Moretti, Navarro,
C by proxy.
O'Malley,
Yes, by proxy.
Lowry,
Yes.
Pelton, Phillips,
Yes.
Pilchard,
Yes.
Pondillo,
Yes.
Rogers, Syatt Carly,
Yes. By
Sa-
proxy.
Syatt Nick,
Yes.
Sullivan, Schweier,
Yes.
Spindler,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Stroud, Suchanik,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Timon, Thomas,
Yes.
Bulgamore,
Yes.
and Wolf. All right. And Bill 113 will pass on a vote of 40 to 0.
Thanks, folks. Seeing as that was final action on Bill 113, we'll move into final action on Bill 114. If the author will please come forward. Jacob, while you're walking up, were any changes made?
No changes were made.
You have first rights to debate when you reach the podium.
Excellent. Start now.
All right, this is short. The committee spent 13 hours on this. The committee's examined all possible angles, took a holistic approach, looked at everything, and did a very, very thorough and well done job. That is it. Please vote yes.
Thanks, Jacob. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Any further speeches in the positive? Any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote on Bill 114.
Right. Roll call vote on Bill 114. Anderson,
Yes, by proxy.
Bannister,
Yeah.
Barron,
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy,
Yes.
Flood,
Yeah.
Broughton,
Yes.
Brown, Compton,
Yes.
Coy,
Yes.
Questa,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
DePaz,
Yes.
Dole, Glasscock,
Yeah.
Griffith,
Aye.
Heatherman,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yeah.
Hubnig, Hammond,
Yes.
Kappelman,
Yes.
Kirshen,
Yes.
Kidd,
Yes, by proxy.
Kermer, Penzi, Long,
Yes.
Morello, Murphy, Moretti, Navarro,
Yeah, by proxy.
O'Malley,
Yes, by proxy.
Lowry,
Yes.
Pelton, Phillips,
Yes.
Pilchard,
Yeah.
Bondillo,
Yes.
Rogers, Syatt Carly, Syatt Carly,
Yes.
Syatt Nick,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Spindler,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Stroud, Buchanan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Timmon, Thomas,
Yes.
Bogmore, and Wolf. All right, folks, Bill 114 passes 40-0.
Awesome. Seeing as that was final action on Bill 114, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Resolution 67. If the author will please come forward. Bentley, were any changes made?
Nope.
You have first rights to debate whenever you reach the podium.
Yeah, so last week I talked a little bit about how we were gonna update and stuff with like tie breaks. It just so happened to turn out that I didn't receive the actual, so like, you know how you guys get on Instagram and you guys see the screenshots of the election? Okay, so that's all I had. I didn't have the actual like long list of the million people who get like one vote and stuff like that. And I just felt like it was in the best interest of like Senate operations to wait until this next term and include in my transition documents how the process of like picking ties and like breaking the ties goes. So I'm gonna leave it. We decided that it would be best to leave for the next Senate operations to break those ties. So this is a reflection, everyone who want a seat, but the new Senate operations chair will deal with the tie breakings and the people who decline and et cetera, because we still not heard back from certain people, so.
Thanks, Bentley. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Any further speeches in the positive? And any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a hand vote on Resolution 67. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. With that, Resolution 67 will stand approved, and we'll go ahead and move into final action on Resolution 68. If the author will please come forward. Kate, were any changes made?
No.
When you reach the podium, you have first rights to debate.
Awesome. Hey guys, this is the final student-centered tuition enhancements allocation recommendation. It's what we've been doing all semester. And I urge that you vote yes.
Thanks, Kate. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Any further speeches in the positive? And any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a hand vote on Bill 68. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. With that, Bill 68 will stand approved. Resolution 68 will stand approved. And we have exhausted our final action for the evening, and we'll go ahead and move into introduction if there is a motion to consider Bill 115. Chair Long.
I moved into Bill 115.
It's moved and seconded to consider Bill 115. If the author will please come forward.
All right. Oh, we got the old podium back. Nice. Bill 2223-115, amendment to Resolution 2223-52, authors Blake Phillips, sponsors Student Services Fee Committee. Whereas on December 1st, 2022, Kansas State University Student Governing Association passed Resolution 2223-52, allocation of student general surplus funds for CAPS budget relief to provide one-time funds for CAPS for market salary increases. Whereas since the passage of this legislation, CAPS became aware of human capital services restrictions that prevented the full utilization of one-time funds in fiscal year 2023. Whereas CAPS expects $4,130 to be unused at the end of this fiscal year. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that these funds should be able to be utilized by CAPS. And whereas in consultation with CAPS, the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that allowing CAPS to utilize the remaining funds in fiscal year 2024 would allow CAPS one-time funds to have the greatest impact. Be it enacted that Section 1, Section 4 of Resolution 22-2352, allocation of student general surplus funds for CAPS budget relief shall be amended to read as follows. Section 4 just changes fiscal year 2023 to 24. Section 2, Bill 22-2315 becomes effective upon passage or upon execution of this agreement by the Student Services Fee Committee Chair, Speaker of the Student Senate, Student Body President, the Director of CAPS, the Vice President for Administration and Finance, and the Vice President for Student Life.
Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Coordinator Lynn, is that a question?
No.
Okay, seeing none, Blake, you can take your seat. Coordinator Lynn?
Move to special order bill 115.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to Special Order Bill 115. Are there any objections?
Point of order. Peyton, would you be willing to just wait and do that for all three?
Sure.
So is your motion withdrawn?
Yeah.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and move into final action on what is actually supposed to be Bill 116, or not final action, introduction on what is supposed to be Bill 116. I missed a 1 on there. Is there a motion to consider Bill 116? Senator Questa.
Move to consider bill 116.
Blake, go ahead.
I appreciate the thought, Peyton. Bill 116 request of transfer of funds of the Student Services Fee General Reserve and Emergency Allocation Account. Authors Blake Phillips, sponsors Evan Porter and Parker Vogelmore. That should not say emergency allocation account. That should be axed. Whereas estimates based on university enrollment data, which includes 20th day spring enrollment numbers, show that the collection of the fiscal year 2023 student services fee is projected to have a shortfall of $13,544. Whereas withdrawals from the student services fee general reserve account shall only be made for payment towards outstanding debt on student bonds for one-time emergency funding allocations and to meet approved allocations to student services fee agencies due to financial shortfall from lower than projected enrollment. Whereas the student services fee general reserve account has a total current balance of $810,000, whereas the total allotment for the FY23 student services fee base budget is $14,377,959. Whereas it is necessary to transfer funds in order to cover the student services fee budget shortfall. And whereas this recommendation has been reached through discussion with the Vice President for Administration and Finance, Student Body President, Speaker of the Student Senate, and Student Services Fee Committee Chair. Be it enacted that Section 1, the central allocations account for the student services fee collections shall be specifically allocated money from the student services fee general reserve account to cover the FY23 student services fee budget shortfall. Section 2, the amount allocated for transfer to the central allocation account will not exceed the amount needed to meet the FY23 total student services fee budget allocation of $14,377,959. Whereas Section 3, the student services fee general reserve account shall be specifically allocated money to abide by KSU SGA statute 300202. And Section 4, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, these funds are authorized for transfer from the Student Services Fee General Reserve account to the central allocation account for the Student Services Fee collections. And so, if I may, what basically this does is just allow us to cover our budget deficit that we have for the coming year.
Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Heatherman.
Is there a reason this needed to be introduced this week?
To be honest,
Special order.
so theoretically it could be done in the future, but I just felt it was necessary to do it this week just because we got the information this week, and I was already introducing something else, and I don't know. I personally just like the idea of passing this legislation with the current committee. With everyone knowing our budget situation that's gone on this year, I think it just makes the most sense. So, and I was not able to get this on the table earlier because we just had our meeting with administration on Monday. So,
Are there any further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thanks, Blake. You can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to consider Resolution 71? Senator Questa.
Move to consider resolution. Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 71. If the author will please come forward.
Alrighty, resolution 22-2371, recommendation to Kansas State University regarding course information ability by Tate Anderson. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association believes that KSU should provide a clear picture of all classes offered in order to ensure student academic success. Whereas KSU SGA has a responsibility to advocate for the academic success of each student enrolled at KSU. Whereas KSU SGA's academic support plan identified that KSU should provide a clearly defined picture of its courses from enrollment to completion. Whereas today, students of KSU sign up for classes without knowing the expectations of the professor. Whereas during enrollment, students are only given the name of the course and a brief description that may or may not describe the course clearly, and whereas students deserve to know the details about the courses they are enrolling in. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association believes that the following components should, where possible, be incorporated into the course catalog. Number 1, a tentative course schedule, including typical assignments, quizzes, and exam demands. 2, a description of the course's grade weighting. And 3, any textbooks and the price of textbooks that may or may not be required. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, copy of this resolution shall be sent to University Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Charles Tabor.
Thanks, Nick. Are there any questions or corrections? Seeing none, you can take your seat. With that, we have exhausted our legislative agenda for the night, unless there are any motions. Folks, these bills are going to die if we do not special order them. Someone please, Chair Phillips.
I move to special order bills 1, 15, 16, and resolution 7. Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to special order. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 115. If the author, Senator Blood.
I move to both roll call bills 115. Second. Objections.
Why do you object? Both roll call 115 and 116? Okay, with objection withdrawn?
Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to bulk roll call 115, bills 115 and 116. Are there any objections? Seeing none is so ordered. Blake, you have first rights to debate.
Yeah.
I know no changes were made. Go ahead.
Yes, no changes have been made to either. Sorry. These pieces of legislation are just different. So I'm generally not a super big fan of bulk roll calling things like that. But specifically on Bill 115, this is just a super easy change, helps CAPS it helps and allows CAPS to utilize some of that money that we already allocated for them and allows them to better serve students. So I would strongly encourage a yes vote.
Thanks, Blake. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on Bill 115, are there any speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into final action on Bill 116. If the author will please come forward. Again, I know there were no changes made, so you have first rights to debate.
Yeah, so we need to cover our budget deficit. We promised out a certain amount of money to entities, and so we have to be able to allocate that. The one change that I will note, we used to have a process where this had to come from, well, didn't have to, but it has in recent years from our general surplus account. We passed some legislation earlier in the term that removed the limit that we had to keep $810,000 in our general reserve account. So that's really nice because we would be unable to utilize that $810,000 based on how the statutes were written. And the reason that was written in was for situations like this, where we have smaller, and by smaller, this is generally if we're going to have a deficit, what it should be, not $4 million. But we should be able to cover our budget deficits from this account. And so this legislation just proposes taking about $13,000 or whatever that budget deficit ends up being out of our reserve account and puts it to our entities. So I'd strongly encourage a yes vote.
Thanks, Blake. Seeing as that was debate in the positive on Bill 116, we'll go ahead and are there, oh my gosh, are there any speeches in the negative? Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into a bulk roll call on bills 115 and 116.
Hey, folks, bulk roll call on bills 115 and 116. Yes to both, no to both, yes to one and no to the other one. Same drill. Anderson. Bannister.
Yes, both.
Barron.
Abstain to vote by proxy.
Bellamy.
Yes to both.
Blood.
Yes to vote.
Broughton.
Yes to vote.
Brown. Compton.
Yes to both.
Coy. Questa,
Yes to all.
Dennis,
Yes to both.
DePaz,
Yes to both.
Dole, Glasscock,
Yes to both.
Griffith.
Aye,
Is that a
aye. Aye.
Heatherman,
Yes to both.
Hoffman,
Yes, yo.
Hubnik, Hammond,
Yes to both.
Kaplan,
Yes to both.
Persian,
Yes to both.
Kidd,
Yes to both.
Kermer, Kenzie, Long,
Yes to both.
Morello, Murphy, Moretti,
Yes.
Is that a yes to both? Moretti?
Yes. Yes to what?
Thank you. Navarro,
Yep, yes. By proxy.
O'Malley,
Yes to both by proxy.
Howery,
Yes to both.
Pelton, Phillips,
Yes to both.
Pilchard,
Yes to both.
Bondillo,
Yes to both.
Rogers, Syatt Carly,
Yes to both by proxy.
Syatt Nick,
Yes to both.
Salmon,
Yes to both.
Schreier,
Yes to both.
Spindler,
Yes to both.
Stout,
Yes to both.
Stroud, Suchanik,
Yes to both.
Talbert,
Yes to both.
Pittman, Thomas,
Yes to both.
Vogelmore,
Yes to both.
and Wolf. All right, folks, and bills 115 and 116 will each pass on a vote of 40-0 to 1.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Seeing as that was final action on bills 115 and 116, we'll go ahead and move into final action on resolution 71. If the author will please come forward. Again, I know no changes were made, so you have first rights to debate.
Thanks, Evan. The only reason this is being special ordered at all is because of the technical difficulty mix-up last week. It was supposed to be introduced last week and debated on as normal. Tate's put a lot of work into this over the course of the semester, focusing on how students can have a clearer picture of their classes before they enroll in them. That's a pretty big priority of our academic support plan. And these seem like pretty common sense measures that all students should have access to before they enroll. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a hand vote on resolution 71. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. Resolution 71 will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into our second open period as we have exhausted the end of our last legislative agenda for the semester, or not for the semester, for the SGA term. Well done, everybody. Are there any second open period speakers this evening? Senator Bannister.
So congratulations on making it through the term, everyone. As you may know, this is my last Senate, so I wanted to give a couple of special shout outs, not just to our leadership team up here, but especially to Blake and Nick. These are 2 members of SGA who really put their head down and focus on the work that's important to students the entire time. And I've been really happy that I've got to serve with you 2. I know I disagree with you guys some of the time, but you guys are always so compassionate and caring about students. That's a real inspiration. And I just wish that everyone can aspire to work as hard as you do the entire time. There is something that I would like to address before I leave Senate, though. 2 days after the general election, I withdrew all my applications for leadership positions in SGA. And this has been something that I've continuously thought about since my first term, where there was implications that the current relationship I was in was to cover up the true identity of my sexuality. In this past term, when there was implications I was not fit for leadership positions because previous issues with mental health. I don't believe that these are genuine. I think these were things that were said by people to be a little bit hurtful, possibly because sometimes I'm not good at regulating my words and sometimes I push back against things people care about. But I just want everyone to think about going to the next term that this should be a caring and loving environment. I think for the most part, everyone here does a great job of that. And I've been really happy and proud and honored to meet all of you and be with you. And I just want to make sure that going forward, this is a caring and loving environment for everyone. So thank you to all of you who choose to foster that every day.
Thanks, Will. Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Okay, seeing none, Juan will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Heatherman, go ahead.
I wasn't going to do this because I suspect you all have places you want to be. But tonight was senior speeches. And nobody said this, so I have to say it because it gets said every year, which is the most important part of a meeting is the 5 minutes before and the 5 minutes after. And somebody better say it next year. And that's all.
Thanks, Hannah. Unless there are any further second open period speakers this evening, Juan will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Shout out to spring break. Shout out to resolution 69. Congrats to Marta and Caleb. Shout out to the K-State women's basketball team for beating Texas Tech at the Big 12 championship today. Shout out to the student allocations committee for approximately 69 hours this term. Shout out to Will in that turtleneck. Shout out to everyone showing up to the last meeting of the term looking very good. Shout out to
sexy. The word said sexy.
Speaker Cordy.
There was more there.
Yeah. Sexy as hell is what they said.
What are you gonna do? Impeach me? Come on.
Shout out to the judicial branch for their hard work. Shout out to Natalie for all the amazing work you did this year. Thank you so much. Shout out to Blake. Thank you for being so welcoming from day one, and thanks for all the advice and support. Happy last Senate. Shout out to hashtag Senate Rap. Shout out to the completely out-of-pocket abstentions tonight.
No, that one was funny, Juan. Natalie, on your bill, were you silent or were you silenced?
Shout out to West Virginia University for putting in a good effort towards beating KU in the Big 12 championship. Was indeed a good effort. Shout out to Blake for a very impressive 4 years in SGA. Shout out to Evan, myself, and Bryce for their work in making sure we get through the agenda each week. Shout out to Nick for using his big boy voice. Shout out to Chick-fil-A for the coupons.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kate for chairing committee of the year. Shout out to the Zoom baby. Shout out to all the money we moved around tonight. Shout out to all my amazing people on Senate operations. I love y'all. Shout out to Blake Phillips for many years of public service. A hearty round of applause to him. The state of student government is as strong as Caleb's hair. Shout out to Parker's phone volume, ... old man. Shout out to shouting during debate. Shout out to President-elect Caleb. Oh, President-elect Caleb has the Bernie Sanders podium stance. Shout out to Marta's phone, rub-a-dub-dub. Shout out to bulk roll calling. Shout out to the same old podium. Shout out to rub-a-dub-dub. I will miss Juan, truly a king. Thank you so much for the time you spent with us. Thank you. Shout out to the amount of time Jacob said holistic. Shout out to the not that one. Shout out to Marta. You will be missed. Shout out to Brian Blood for always raising my blood pressure. Shout out to, okay, all right.
Shout out to Juan for sheepishly saying sexy as hell. Okay, no reference of legislation tonight, folks, so Juan will take it away with our final roll call.
All right, folks. Last roll call for the term. Pretty exciting. Anderson. Bannister.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Coy.
Here.
Cuesta.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole. Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Still here.
Heatherman.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Hubnik.
Here.
Cameron.
Here.
Kappelman.
Here.
Kirshen.
Here.
Penzi. Long.
Here.
Morello.
Here.
Murphy. Moretti.
Yes, here.
Oury.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Bondolo.
Here.
Rogers. Syatt Nick.
Here.
Salmon.
Here.
Schreier.
Here.
Spindler.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Strout. Suchanik.
Here.
Talbert.
Here.
Timon. Thomas.
Here.
Vogelmore. And Wolf. All right. Thank you so much, folks.
Thanks, everybody. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Chair Phillips.
I move to the chair for the 22-23 KSU SGA term.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. We won't affix a time for reassembling because we're not going to reassemble, folks. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned at, my watch died. 9:03 PM.